Hello there, and welcome on into another episode of DCU Daily on Oh So Curious. We have a lot to talk about today, as per always. Well, we have some news from James Gunn and DC, specifically James Gunn clarifying his comment earlier in the week that he's coming to a Comic-Con. Well, maybe he was talking about CCXP, the one in Mexico, and not the one in San Diego? What does that mean for DC Studios' presence at San Diego Comic-Con, you know, where we have a Hall H and everything? Does that mean we're gonna get James Gunn there at all? He might have just pulled the rug from under all of us and our expectations that we've been talking about all week long. So we'll talk about that. We'll get into it. We'll analyze it. We'll figure out whether, you know, how much. What does he mean? What does that imply? But of course, the other news that we have today, the big one, is the Superman Global Tour has been announced, which is to say that they're going to be going on a world tour promoting the movie up until the movie comes out. There's actually a few different dates across several continents, and we'll talk about them. It's kind of crazy the travel schedule they'll be keeping for that week leading up to the movie's release. And we have some Marvel news because Disney apparently is not happy with the MCU slate, especially at the movie theater coming out next year in 2026. What can they do about it? Why are they not happy? We'll get into that. I have Bridget with me today. We're going to talk about Lilo and Stitch and all the records it has broken, where it is now. And, well, you know, we'll just be praying at the altar of the movie that is currently blowing up the box office worldwide. And we have quick hits, as always. And then Umberto Gonzalez of The Wrap. He put up a photo of a Brainiac with an eye emoji. What does that mean? Is he hinting at something? He's been known to break, big stories for the Marvel and DC universes. So we'll talk about those and so much more. As always, to get the show started, let's hit that news intro, and then we'll bring Bridget in on the other side. And yeah, we'll get going.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number two.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
You're
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see chords.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the needs now?
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
All right. Okay. Well, it's going to be a packed show as always. We have some big news, as I mentioned before the intro there. We've got some stuff from DC. We've got some stuff from Marvel. We've got some stuff from Hollywood in general. To do that and to talk about it and so much more, as always, it's exciting to welcome on back Bridget. How are you doing today?
Hey, Dan. I am doing good. I am in another room of my home. I'm visiting home. So it's been pretty nice, just getting to spend some time with family. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I usually start off by asking everybody, like, what is the most exciting story that you saw on the rundown for today? Because we have a wide range of things to talk about, but from the DC stuff, we have Fantastic Four. We're gonna talk about the MCU, of course. There's some Severance. There's a funny Severance quick hit. So if you're a fan of that show, even John Wick news potentially. So what are you most excited about?
Yeah, just a couple things. One, I was, keeping up with the Lilo and Stitch and seeing that kind of did how I predicted. It was kind of exciting. That's something I'm kind of excited to talk about. Also seeing that story about Supergirl and her process just in the casting, I found really interesting. As an actor, I like hearing about other actors talk about kind of their experience, especially doing screen testing. And it's kind of nice to know that even when they are really, auditioning for huge roles, that they still obviously feel a lot of pressure and that kind of nervousness. Yeah. It's nice to relate to.
That is actually one of the things I forgot to mention. We do have to talk about that, and I'm glad you brought it up because it is, it's awesome to hear. It's awesome to hear more about the process, but it's certainly surprising and kind of humbles you that, hey, even somebody as successful as Millie Alcock still has the same anxiety around auditioning probably for the role of her life, as like you would, for example, right? Like it's and
Right.
that's not to say like like you, I mean, aren't a great actress in your own right. It's more just doesn't matter what point in your career you are in, you always have that anxiety of, am I
Yeah.
gonna get the part? Like, and you're there being compared with tens, dozens, maybe even hundreds of other people, actors who in their own right might have also like done a lot of great work, whether it's they're just starting out or they're well established. That's the thing. So we will definitely talk about that. I especially love that we have you on the show to talk about it because you can speak to it in a way that I can't speak to it, John can't speak to it because
Right.
we're not actors by trade. So I'd love to get your opinion when we get to that. We will get to that in the DCU Daily portion of the show. We have some DC news right at the top of the show as well. But before we get into all of that, I wanted to mention that we have a few people in the chat, so let's give them a shout out. We have Monique. She joined in she was the very first person in the chat, saying hello all. Hope you are having a great day. I cooked a surf and turf birthday dinner for myself. Dry rub, tri-tip, sherry cream langostina, and Caesar salad. Wow. Like, can I get some of that? Like, oh my god, that is delicious. Well, I hope you are enjoying your birthday. Happy birthday, Monique, and thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day to enjoy, the show. Like, thank you for tuning in. Like, we are here, and hopefully you've had a great birthday so far, and we hope to just add to the celebrations. Of course, Caleb is here. Honka honka. Hello, right dude is here. What's up, guys? Caleb is saying I'm a packed show. Well, Caleb. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. Antonio is here as well as Ron. So hello to both of you guys. I can't wait to get going here. Hit the like button if you guys have already joined, like Antonio's telling y'all to, because that does help us out a lot. It puts us in front of more eyeballs, and it brings the community out to the rest of the world. And hopefully we can get more people on the train that is Oh So Curious in DCU Daily. So let's start things off. Like I said, we have some DC news to get into, but before we do, there's a movie right now that is absolutely dominating the box office everywhere around the world. And that, of course, Bridget, I'm not sure if you've seen it yet, but we have certainly talked about it plenty. I know that Liz was on the show yesterday. Then immediately after the show, she packed her car and flew out across the country to go see it with her nephews. And that, of course, I'm talking about is Lilo and Stitch. And all the box office records it's broken. They did this article in the in Deadline today that I wanted to kind of get into because they kind of point out like everything that this movie has already accomplished. It's only been in release for what is it now, like a week at most, depending on if you're watching us live. It's been just a week that this movie has been out, and in that week it's already broken all kinds of records, right? We have talked about this already. One of the records it broke was the Memorial Day weekend box office that Top Gun Maverick previously held, which is kind of ironic because Mission Impossible is another Tom Cruise movie that was on the same weekend. So Tom Cruise couldn't really defend his record with a different film, but hey, Lilo and Stitch is hitting the sweet spot with everybody, it seems like. And the fact they've only made it for $100 million, which you might be like, only 100? Well, in today's blockbuster filmmaking world, where Hunger Games spin prequels and the cheapest Marvel movies are like 150 million and plus, 100 million is actually kind of cheap. So but that definitely helps because that means this movie is already pretty much profitable even when you take into account all the marketing. But here's a few of the records. I want to get your reaction to these. We don't have to spend a ton of time on them because numbers bore people after a while. But I mentioned the box office Memorial Day weekend record was broken, 182.6 million that Top Gun Maverick previously held with 160.5 million. So it broke it by not just a small margin, but over 20 million. So that's pretty big. The biggest opening ever for a ride-back production. That's one of the production companies involved in this. It beats out their previous biggest movie that they financed, which was It Chapter 1 for Warner Brothers. And it broke that by over 20 million. Wow. Then you also have, of course, the biggest opening for the director of the movie by far. His previous opening wasn't even like $1 million. A24 makes sense. It was a smaller movie. It's also the biggest PG movie opening in May, ahead of Shrek the Third from 121.6 million in 2007. And then there's a few other ones notable here. All right. Well, by the way, the biggest 4-day Memorial Day weekend at the domestic box office. So not just world. Look at that number, 329.8 million, and that's basically the overall weekend at the box office. The previous record was there you go. Fast and Furious 6 led the way that weekend with $117 million opening as part of an overall weekend of 314 in what was it, 2013. Holy cow, that's the year Man of Steel came out. What are your thoughts on these, records? You even have fifth biggest Monday of all time. This movie's making money every day of the week. Bridget, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I feel ashamed that I haven't seen it yet because I do. I want to see it, and I'm trying to get my younger sister to go with me. But she just said she's like, well, I just watched Stitch on like Disney Plus, like the original animated, and she's like, it's just going to be the same story, and I'm like, well, it's like still going to see it, and I mean, I feel like good marketing beyond just like obviously ads and stuff. I've seen like jewelry at Claire's, and I think I saw Build-A-Bear Workshop has like Stitch stuff. So it's, I feel like that's also getting people excited to see it. But I mean, I did predict it was going to do good, but even this is surprising me. Like just seeing like the comparison to these other movies and like, wow, like even Shrek the Third and like Fast and Furious and even Top Gun. I didn't expect it to beat those out because Top Gun Maverick was like such a hit. But I guess, I don't know, I guess maybe it makes sense if it's able to appeal to children as well, just more tickets being sold. But
no, absolutely.
It makes me definitely really want to see it now to see what's going on.
I mean, you have to, right? You have to see it because of how cute Stitch is. That's what you gotta go see it for. I just wanted to answer him. Sorry, go ahead. You were saying.
I was gonna say, and it's the same voice actor too, which is great.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
they went and got the same dude from the OG movie. I'm like, that's kind of crazy to me. But anyway, Manos Time was asking, like, is this the second Tom Cruise movie in a row now that has underperformed because of another movie like the Barbenheimer kind of crushed Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning? I will say this, whereas with Dead Reckoning it was like the Ugly Duckling, that was like the movie that sort of got crushed by the Barbenheimer phenomenon. In this case, I think Mission Impossible is part of it, like the whole Stitch Impossible thing, like, right, like it's not Barbenheimer levels, but Stitch Impossible, you can look at it and say, hey, one lifted the other up, there was plenty of money to be made, and it was a record for the franchise. Like Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning did break the record for the highest opening for a Mission Impossible movie ever, considering it might be the last one. Might as well do it now. Better late than never. So Tom Cruise is doing well for himself. In fact, we talked about it on yesterday's show, I think, or maybe 2 days ago. He posted a whole message thanking Paramount and everybody, saying that, hey, this was an amazing weekend. Thank you to everyone who has supported me. It was also probably just, him saying goodbye to the franchise in a way by thanking everybody who has, provided him support. Skydance, Paramount, everybody he works with over at that studio. They're still doing other stuff, but this might be the last Mission Impossible movie Tom Cruise does. To answer Steven's question, who's in the chat, we got Enterprising, Kevin, and Manos Time joining in now. John is on a mission. He briefly came back on Tuesday from that mission. Now he's back on that mission. He'll be back soon. We will keep you posted as to his whereabouts. But Enterprising saying no one likes the third wheel. Well, yeah, Mission Impossible ended up being the third wheel in Barbenheimer, whereas here it's one of the two.
Gets to actually be the contender.
It's part of the system. Yeah, exactly. So one of a couple of the other records here I wanted to kind of quickly mention before we move on here, because we have to talk about where the movie is today. But amongst the other records, it was the highest Disney live action opening of all time across Latin America. It was number 1 in Mexico with 27 million, third in Brazil with 12.2. Then you look at it, I mean, we talk about how these live action remakes, can have these very, roller coaster ride up and down results. But when you look at this one, it's the third highest. Lilo and Stitch is the third highest Disney live action worldwide opening with $342 million. That's insane. It did that in just one weekend. The only two movies to beat it are Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King. I personally think Beauty and the Beast is actually really good, whereas The Lion King just feels lifeless compared to the animated version. But I'm also like, that's my favorite animated movie of all time. So I'm a very harsh critic of The Lion King in live action. It's also I was gonna say Liz. I keep making these mistakes.
Call me what you
I apologize. I already apologize for 5 more times. I'll do it today. But Bridget, like, Disney has now become the first studio to cross $2 billion year to date, which we kept talking about. Warner Brothers on a winning streak. Warner Brothers is doing this. Look at that. There's 4th movie in a row that's doing really well. And Disney had a couple of high profile, not flops, but definitely, they kind of flopped on their face, at least, where you had Captain America 4, Snow White underperform. But all of a sudden now Disney's crossed $2 billion already. Like, and what are we in getting into June now? Like, it's at the end of May. And so yes, we are roughly halfway through the year, so it's not like it's only been a few months, but yeah, we were kept talking about how Warner Brothers is on a streak, but here comes Disney all of a sudden. Your
Yeah,
rumors
just
of their demise were greatly exaggerated, I suppose. So
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it's a win that I think they definitely needed, with everything that had already, the whole Snow White stuff going on. I think it's obviously very hopeful. But yeah, I mean, for me, I didn't even know this movie was happening. I would say at least until maybe 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I'm pleasantly surprised too. I'm definitely.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I definitely have to see this. Like I'm angry at myself for showing up today without watching it.
You absolutely should. I mean, Snow White wasn't very good, and Monique, I agree with you. I think Cinderella is one of the best ones they have done in terms of live action remakes.
Yeah.
How to Train Your Dragon remake is coming out soon now as well. It's already got some pretty good reviews. They screened the whole movie for the CinemaCon audience a few weeks ago, so we already know a lot of people who were there at that screening. They were glowing about the film. So I don't think that movie will be in trouble. And then, like Monique is saying, yeah, I mean, hey, the box office is gonna start going up because we're getting to the summer season now. Elio is another. It's a Pixar movie coming out later this year. We hope that's good. A couple of questions here before we move on to the next thing. Manos Time saying, Dan, does this mean that Tom Cruise isn't a box office star he once was and studios noticed this fact? Or is his name still a big draw? Well, look, I think the movie star in general, that concept doesn't quite apply the same way as it used to. We've talked about this on many occasions because nowadays people go to see movies for the characters. And studios like it that way because they can control characters more easily because it's their IP. They're not living, breathing beings who will, have contract disputes. And that's what used to be in, what dominated Hollywood were these stars, like who led their movies, whether you have Arnold Schwarzenegger, you have obviously Sylvester Stallone, you have Jim Carrey, the stars of the 90s, the stars of the 80s back in the day. Nowadays, stars just don't work the same. But even in that climate, I would say Tom Cruise is still very much one of the few leftover stars. Because consider this. Most other movies coming out against Lilo and Stitch, where basically the premise is go watch Tom Cruise perform like crazy stunts to where most people would not dare, even try. And Tom Cruise has actually hurt himself really badly on several occasions and might even die doing one day. Mm-hmm. That's the premise of Mission Impossible at this point. Like they literally have said, Christopher McQuarrie, the director, and Tom Cruise, that they make up the plot of the movie and around the stunts that they come up with. So like the whole point of these Mission Impossible movies is go watch Tom Cruise do crazy stunts. And the fact that made the most money for the franchise, record, while competing with Lilo and Stitch. I mean, it's Tom Cruise the movie, right? So that goes to show you he's still a star. I mean, do you agree, Bridget? Do you think Tom Cruise is still one of those last few movie stars?
I do. And you know what? I feel like one of the things that does kind of keep that, I think what kind of almost led to this, a little bit of the demise of the movie star even, is seeing some of these heyday actors be in some pretty terrible rom-coms on Netflix, or show up in these
really like a paycheck, essentially, that's
exactly, which I understand they have to do, but I think it then makes you think, well, just because so-and-so's in a movie doesn't mean it's going to be good. Right. Whereas I haven't yet seen Tom Cruise in one of these rom-coms. I haven't seen him in a comedy that's kind of flopped. I don't know. This is when I think of I forget what this movie was, but it had Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock and Brad Pitt. And I was like, Brad Pitt? And I feel like it's something like that where it just kind of taints their image a little bit. But I feel like for Tom Cruise, he hasn't done anything that I think has tainted his image in that way. So I feel like he's still kind of holding strong. And that does kind of keep that movie star allure for him.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't done anything bad in a long time. I just remember when he jumped on Oprah's couch, and then then Tropic Thunder comes out, and he's Les Grossman, and I mean, but in the time since, he's definitely steered clear of a lot of controversy. Obviously, his public divorces and all that, but that's now firmly behind him. Actually, to kind of follow up and answer a couple other questions. I mean, Enterprising saying, I wonder if Tom Cruise will ever do an animated film. I don't think he would. He would, because he's all about doing stuff himself, being there, having the experience and pushing himself to the limit. Which, I mean, jumping in a voice booth for a couple of weeks and recording lines for a character that just does his. I don't think that's Tom Cruise's forte. The closest thing he might do is something that's like very heavily motion captured. But at that point, he's like, I might as well be in the movie myself. So maybe Tom Cruise could show up in an Avatar film if that logic holds. But I guess that may be the closest thing to an animated film Tom Cruise might ever do. I wouldn't imagine he's gonna do an animated film. I mean, unless we see him do that maybe when he's really winding his career down, maybe when he's in his 80s or something. But until he can do the stunts, he's gonna keep doing the stunts. He's gonna be an action star.
Or maybe like a Tom Hanks Polar Express
maybe. Yeah. By the way, I think one of you guys, Steven was asking earlier, have you seen Lilo and Stitch, Bridget? You haven't, right? So you're gonna.
No, I'm like, maybe tomorrow I will. Like maybe by this weekend I want to, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna do the same actually. Manus Time asking, you're talking about the Lost City. Wait, are we? What?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I couldn't remember the name. Sorry.
There you go. Thank you for pointing that out. I think Monique and Manos both pointed that out. And Steven complimenting you, saying you look amazing today. Well, there you go. And then one more thing here. Steven asked a question saying, Dan, I hope you talk about the report of Bob Iger today. If you're talking about how he's not happy with the MCU slate in 2026, then yes, we will talk about that today. But if there's something else, then definitely let us know in the chat, and maybe I'll bring it in. Like you've brought it up before. We always love to get ideas from you guys, and we'll integrate that into the show. But Lilo and Stitch. Before we move on to we have some James Gunn news coming up in a second. But Lilo and Stitch, had the best Tuesday in May for a PG movie at $15+ million. It crossed 200 million just in 5 days of release. Now we're coming up on Friday, its second weekend, Bridget, and you can see that the last set of numbers we have are from Wednesday, so that's from yesterday. We're doing the show on Thursday. It made 10 million. So you can see even during the middle of the week, it's making a ton of money, because you look at the next movie down the list, Mission Impossible is making less than half of that, like just under 5, and then even Final Destination making even half of that, like at 2 million. So as far as where Lilo and Stitch currently stands at the worldwide box office, according to Box Office Mojo, it's already almost at $500 million, with a very close to 50-50 split between domestic and international, where you got roughly 208 million, just under 208 million domestically, and then a close to 214 million world internationally. So, Bridget, I guess my question to you, and this is kind of an easy tap in, as it were, in soccer terms, do you think this movie is going to cross 500 million at the box office this upcoming weekend?
I think so. I think the word's gonna get out, and it's just up from here. I mean, could be wrong, but I was right the first time, so I think that's true.
I mean, the word is already out at this point. I don't know, like, what else. Like, I mean, people are going to see this thing and then bringing their friends and family and cousins and aunts and neighbors and maybe even their enemies. Who knows? But the movie obviously deserves it, because in a lot of ways, it's the perfect kind of like summer movie. You've got a Stitch that
it's so cute.
He looks like a plushy toy come to life. Lilo the actors they picked here is amazing. And I think overall they avoided the uncanny valley issue with Stitch's animation and the character design. And ultimately, I think we've got a movie here which is just that kind of a film that the whole family can go to and enjoy at the movie theaters, at the box office, whatever you want to call it. And then hopefully we'll get a few more like that, because I know that we're all excited about it, especially again cute characters like we've got Grogu next year. Disney knows what they're doing. We got Crypto coming up this summer, Herbie in Fantastic Four.
Brother never told you never threaten a man's family.
Yeah, I said the word. I said the word. I have to be penalized for that. There you go. Well, we got Hunter Iggy in the chat now. Hunter Iggy is asking, where have you been, Bridget? Well,
I was, trying to get some sand and sea and surf, and now I'm back.
Yeah. Nico saying hello, Bridget.
Hi.
Monique saying Tron Ares, but that is the fall. Well, Tron Ares will hopefully be good, because the trailer so far looks great. And let me say hello to Nico in the chat. How are you doing? Manus Time saying, even if Lilo and Stitch was a bad movie, I find it okay at best. Prefer the original. Nobody can truly hate Stitch. It will make $1 billion easily. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a feeling that movie will, like, right now sitting at like 420 million worldwide. By the time we get to Monday, that movie is probably going to be over 600 million easy. At
Yeah.
which point, I mean, by the time you get to the following weekend, like I think it's going to be getting closer to $1 billion.
Yeah.
I think the overall number at this point, they're probably looking at somewhere between 1.2 to 1.4, maybe even higher, depending on, if it keeps the momentum going. Obviously, it's a competitive summer box office, so we'll see
Yeah.
movies like Karate Kid come out this weekend. Then you have the How to Train Your Dragon, the live action adaptation. So it's going to start to pick up. So we'll have more competition. But until we get to that point, Bridget, it's looking like, this movie, the world is its oyster, and
It is.
we can't help but be swept up in all the hub, as it were. What a word that is. All right, well, let us know, guys, in the comments down below what you think about Lilo and Stitch. Have you gone and seen it yet? And are you excited to see how far it goes? Because it could be the first billion-dollar movie of the year. We know that Minecraft was getting closer and closer, but it might have just petered out under $1 billion. So yeah, I mean, Lilo and Stitch, though, on its way, well on its way. And in the meantime, we're gonna move on. We're gonna get into the James Gunn news because, hey, we had this news drop earlier in the week that James Gunn, he himself answered a question on Threads, I believe it was, saying, yeah, it's going to be just John Cena and myself, but I'll be talking about everything DCU, or everything DC, I think he said. And that was in reference to, are you going to be like, at San Diego Comic-Con and stuff. So people assumed, oh, okay, so he's going to be there. He's going to talk about everything DC related. Great. All our prayers and have been answered. Well, things may not be what they seem, because James Gunn might have made a bit of a mistake. But before we get into the mistake, Bridget, I just wanted to quickly do a shout out to James Gunn for just having the best of the toys and statuettes or mannequins, because he's got a life size, because he's got Ozu, which he's based this new Crypto on. But then he went ahead and got a life-size version of Crypto from Muckle Mannequins, which is now in his office. That looks amazing. I think we have talked about this before when they first announced it, but here you go. This is what it looks like. Talking about cute creatures at the movies, you got Stitch right now blowing up the box office. Bridget, what do you think about the character design for Crypto and the fact that you can get yourself a life-size version?
Yeah.
Just prop it on your desk, as it were.
That is so, honestly, that is so cute. And yes, I've seen that. I was kind of surprised when I first saw that. That's how they kind of do animation, is I've seen that before, where they'll have these, like I saw for one animated movie in real life, I saw the actual.
Yeah, they'll have like a puppet version of it.
Yeah, that they had made. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. And it's so detailed. And I think that's so cute. And I think that's great especially for super fans that want to have like a piece of this. And I don't know, maybe if you like, for me, I don't have any pets and I kind of wish I did. And this looks so realistic. It'd be kind of nice just to feel like you have a dog.
No, I mean, hey, well, I mean, I hope that if you really wanted a dog, that you go get a real dog. But it's not a bad place to start.
I mean, no pee, that you have to worry about. So
yeah, no, you don't have to walk it 3 times a day. You don't have to feed it. It's just gonna be there looking at you all cute and whatnot.
You can just pet it.
You can pet it. There you go. Well, Hosea's in the chat, and Monique saying is a supreme dog lover. It's a no for me. And then Manos Time saying don't hurt Crypto. So Monique not necessarily a fan of this mannequin design, or maybe even the Crypto design, but like, yeah, we do have other versions of Crypto in the comics. I'm sure we'll get other superpowered dogs in the DCU at this as well. He's got to interact with something other than just humans, right? Like we got to get other cute doggies in there that he can play around with. So I'm sure
if you could make a collection, that would be really cool.
Yeah, maybe we can have, maybe Batman can have his dog. I forget what Batman's dog's name is supposed to be, but we'll find out. But what we did find out today, as I mentioned at the very top, was the fact that James Gunn recently clarified his comments regarding attending San Diego Comic-Con. So here's the thread, the literal thread. Lee Pace Batman asked him, which again, there's somebody probably wanting Lee Pace to play Batman, asked, so there will be a special Peacemaker panel at SDCC, or will it be an all-encompassing DC Studios one? Basically asking, will you have a Peacemaker panel at the San Diego Comic-Con, or will you have something that's just like all of DC, including Peacemaker? To which James Gunn responded 3 days ago, saying it's just me, John, and Peacemaker. Or it's just me and John and Peacemaker, which I guess John Cena and Peacemaker are the same thing, but whatever. So I guess he's saying that there'll be a Peacemaker panel with him and John. We actually I think it was on yesterday's show, showed the whole promotional graphic where they have announced that James Gunn and John Cena will be attending CCXP with a Peacemaker panel, which is the Comic-Con in Mexico. Then, of course, James Gunn said that he'll talk about everything, so while he'll be there primarily for Peacemaker, he will answer questions about other projects like Supergirl, Lanterns, Clayface, I'm sure, The Authority, Batman, maybe even more Superman stuff, because by that time the movie will be out in theaters, but you can still talk about, maybe the future of Superman. Now, 9 hours ago, as of when we were doing the show live, so aka earlier today on Thursday, James Gunn clarified, saying, "Sorry, folks, I was reading too fast and was thinking CCXP. I was responding about Mexico this week. So not San Diego Comic-Con, but rather just the one in Mexico, which goes by the name of CCXP. And of course, as DC Film News there is asking, so there will be a special DC Studios panel for SDCC? Of course, Supergirl is around the corner. So Bridget, I want to ask you, do you think James Gunn basically just backtracked here saying, I can't tell you anything about SDCC, or is he saying he's not going to be at San Diego Comic-Con at all?
Yeah, it is kind of confusing in his response because he's not exactly clarifying what isn't happening at SDCC. Yeah, that's tough.
He's definitely not giving a very clear. He's not saying, "Oh yeah, not going to San Diego Comic-Con." It's almost, but I mean, it leaves room for speculation, and James Gunn has been known for doing that.
I have hopefully he's saying that what the panel is going to be is what's different.
Like you're saying, you're thinking that they're going to be there. It's just he's not giving details. So he's not saying he's not going to be there at all. Like, is that what you think he's implying, that there will be a presence? It just might be about something else. Not just Peacemaker specific.
Yes, and that's what I'm getting, because I feel like if he was saying, "Oh, I'm actually not going to be there," I feel like he would have said that. I think maybe he's just saying it's not going to just be, or it's not going to be Peacemaker. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think he's saying the panel's going to be a different setup.
Yeah. Here's what I'm thinking. I think James Gunn kind of, caught himself saying, or maybe realizing that he meant the wrong thing. Because here's the thing. James Gunn, I'm sure, responds to a million different comments across all of his social media channels. And he probably doesn't go back and look at all of them after the fact. Because, like, why would you? Like, you and I don't do that. We're like, respond to something, and then unless somebody else responds to our response, we won't go back and look at it. But the world blew it up because obviously we have talked about it. Every other outlet that covers DC talked about, oh, James Gunn said he'll talk about everything at DC's panel at San Diego Comic-Con, and he's going to be talking about Peacemaker, but he'll answer questions about everything else. And so it blew up. At which point maybe he was like, wait, what did I say? Did I say I was going to San Diego Comic-Con? And then he went back and probably saw the comment and was like, oh, that day I was actually thought that question might have been about CCXP, and I, by mistake, said that I was going to be there with John Cena. So we know they've officially announced the CCXP panel. They have not announced anything for San Diego Comic-Con yet. Mm-hmm. So Enterprising saying, yes, no, maybe? I don't know. Can you repeat the question? Basically, that's what James Gunn is saying. But I think in earnest, he probably just caught his own mistake and said, okay, let me clarify. Sorry, folks. I was reading too fast. I was thinking CCXP, which makes sense that they were promoting that a few days ago. So he was talking about that in this situation. What he hasn't said is, no, I will not be at SDCC. So as of right now, I think if you just go off of what is out there, like in terms of literally, this is the thread. Like, this is the source. This is a first-hand source. It's not like somebody talking about it or any implications.
Right.
I think what we have right now is a situation where James Gunn is simply saying, what I said earlier in the week was about CCXP. That's what you can expect.
Nothing more for now.
Nothing more for now. As far as what's going to happen at San Diego Comic-Con, he has not specified yay, nay, or otherwise. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting situation, but I'm glad that he's clarified it at least, because people were really getting their expectations up. Even though when we talked about it earlier in the week, we kind of specified, look, it may yet be what happened at New York Comic Con last year, where they showed up with the cast and crew of Creature Commandos. James Gunn was there. He was in the middle of filming Peacemaker, editing Superman, and then also there for the panel for Creature Commandos. And he basically talked about just the show and what the future of that show is, and the experience they had making the first season of Future Commandos. But then he answered a bunch of questions as part of a Q&A session at the end of that panel. So far we're I think that's the baseline. That's what we should expect and no more until they announce anything otherwise. Yeah, and wouldn't they announce studios that will attend CCXP regardless? Yes, Man of Time. They did actually announce some of the panels, and then we had a graphic on the show yesterday announcing the CCXP panel for Peacemaker, which will have John Cena and James Gunn there. So that's what we know. So again, we know James Gunn is going to CCXP. What we don't know is if he's going to come out for San Diego Comic-Con, which is, of course, when most people say Comic-Con, they're talking about the San Diego Comic-Con, not CCXP or any of the other ones. And yeah, we can't confirm or deny. But yeah, I mean, as far as things go right now, like Bridget says, he has got no more than what he said for CCXP, and I guess we'll just have to wait and find out what we may or may not get for San Diego Comic-Con, which hopefully we will get something big and maybe even a Hall H panel, but as of right now, we don't know. I mean, even Marvel hasn't really specified their plans yet, so I think it's a little too early, but that being said, we're about to be in June next week, so I'm sure we'll hear about all the panels that they'll be scheduling for San Diego Comic-Con real soon, and we'll talk about it when the time comes. But before we move on to the next thing, I just wanted to point out Manos Time gave us the name of Batman's dog, Bat-Hound, so thank you for that. And then Hunter Iggy was saying, what are your thoughts on Sean O'Rourke saying he could have had Man of Steel 2, but Warner Brothers went with James Gunn instead? I mean, good for Sean O'Rourke, I suppose. It's completely Warner Brothers prerogative because they're the ones who own the franchise and the IP, to instead choose James Gunn to work on something. And quite frankly, I think the vibe, the goal at Warner Brothers Discovery was to move into a new era, to start fresh, because the DCEU was not delivering the results. They had 4 movies that made basically, less money than they spent on him, and they were like, well, I want to say maybe Aquaman 2 wasn't a flop, but 3 out of 4 movies in 2023 were flops. And yeah, you can say that they came out as lame ducks after James Gunn had announced a reboot, but even before then, the DCEU was sort of on the ropes, and they had all these controversies with Ezra Miller and obviously Ben Affleck leaving the role, Henry Cavill coming back, not coming back. And even when he did say that he was coming back, it was for a thing with Black Adam that felt like just maybe it would have been a one-off. Like there wasn't any long-term plan. James Gunn's own Suicide Squad movie kind of like, died at the box office because of COVID. So not his fault. But in general, like, the Wonder Woman franchise, you weren't really sure like what the third movie was going to be like after how bad the second one was, even though the first one was great. Shazam, like, all the different controversies. So I think when it comes down to it, Warner Brothers going with James Gunn was as much about, having James Gunn and then Peter Safran coming in with him to reboot a whole cinematic universe as it was about the Superman movie James Gunn was writing. Because they didn't just hire James Gunn to write Superman. They hired James Gunn to run DC Studios. And I don't think Sean O'Rourke was probably interested in doing that anyway. So that's essentially, I think, the reason why. But Man of Time clarifying, Ace the Bat-Hound is the name of Batman's dog. And thank you for reminding me. I should have remembered this, but Elite Easy is joining in now. Hello, Elite Easy. As you can see on screen, we have been talking about how James Gunn clarified, Elite Easy, that he's potentially not going to San Diego Comic-Con, but he didn't say yes or no to that. He just said what he mentioned earlier in the week was he mistakenly took the question that he was asked and thought it was about CCXP, even though in the question they was specifically asking about San Diego Comic-Con. James Gunn responded thinking he was responding about CCXP. So as of right now, we are not sure if James Gunn or DC Studios will have a presence, even Peacemaker, at San Diego Comic-Con. But then again, James Gunn did not say he wasn't going to be at SDCC, so I'm sure we'll find out soon whenever they do announce all the panels and the schedule for San Diego Comic-Con, including Hall H. And until then, we'll just have to wait and hear out, James Gunn and whoever is going to provide the update. Maybe we'll get it from him. Maybe we'll get it from the San Diego Comic-Con website. Maybe there'll be a press release. Elite Easy hoping that it's big enough to be a Hall H presentation. We're all hoping for the same thing, exact same thing. I really hope so. And yeah, I mean, a lot of you guys, responding to what I was saying about James Gunn and DC Studios, that he was a logical choice for his record of success and for his passion for the genre. I agree with you. And then Frankie's in the chat. Hello, Frankie, saying DCEU was a complete mess and the revamp was required. It absolutely was. I think that's the reason why they went in that direction. And as much as I hate the idea that Henry Cavill is not Superman anymore, I'm gonna watch the new movie and enjoy it because it looks fantastic, and I can still go back and watch Man of Steel. I watch it like at least once a year, so whatever.
So once a day.
Manus Time saying DC was and still is a mess currently. If Superman is a success, give it a couple more projects for DC to find its vibe and settle in, and we will see. Yeah, you know what? One movie doesn't make or break the franchise, but also it will definitely help if Superman does well, because of course. And you know what? Aldous Hodge and Pierce Brosnan were really, really well cast in Black Adam, which is why I hope they bring them back. Although I don't think that's where they're going, but you know, they were great in their role. Manus Time saying, find it funny how even Jeff Snyder chose Superman over Fantastic Four. Well, I mean, Fantastic Four. We'll just have to see how well it does, because it's a movie that so far I think the trailers have been a bit underwhelming, but we are getting more and more marketing for it, so we will talk about that. In fact, that's one of the stories that we have coming up on the show today. But in the meantime, guys, let us know in the comments down below what you think about what James Gunn just mentioned. He said, look, sorry folks, I was talking about San Diego Comic-Con, I was talking about CCXP, so sorry about that. I'll be there at CCXP, but you know, he said nothing about San Diego Comic-Con. So far, I guess that leaves the door open. Whether James Gunn will be there, whether DC Studios will have a presence at San Diego Comic-Con, we shall find out. But as of right now, James Gunn saying what he mentioned earlier in the week was not about that. It was about CCXP. So at least we will get to hear from him there. So let us know in the comments what you think about that. Right now, we have to move on to our next story, which of course has to be now talking about Disney. And maybe Bob Iger is not happy with the MCU slate in 2026. So Bridget, I want to get into this, and it's interesting to say the least, but before we even dive into the meat of the story, I will just go in and kind of provide some context, because I think that's necessary, and that way we can kind of like dive into maybe the reasons why Disney is not happy, maybe why Bob Iger is not happy with what Marvel, their premier brand, has on deck for next year in 2026. So earlier in this week, I saw a story on the direct.com, and they did a good job of sort of like spelling this out for us. And Marvel Studios apparently is heading into a bigger gap between two MCU movies than they've ever had in the past with their upcoming Phase 6, because of course we know Thunderbolts wrapped up Phase 5, so now a Fantastic Four is meant to be the first movie in Phase 6. And with the new reshuffle of the movie slate that they did with moving the both Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars to December of 2026 and 2027 respectively, that means the next movie after Fantastic Four is going to be Spider-Man Brand New Day, which comes out next summer. So that when you look at the dates, Fantastic Four, we know, is coming out on, I believe it is July 26th of this year. So it comes out couple of weeks after Superman, which comes out on July 11th. And so between July of this year and then July 31st of 2026, we're going to have a gap of 371 days between the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man 4. So that 371 day gap now beats out the previous record, which was the Multiverse Saga's Phase 5, with the Marvels coming out in November 10th of 2023 and Deadpool Wolverine coming out in July 26th of 2024. 259 days feels like a long time because it's most of a year.
Yeah.
371 days is over a year. So now we have to wait for an entire year between Marvel movies. And even then, I mean, yes, there are technically, MCU movies, the Spider-Man movies, but they're co-producing with Sony. So Sony gets to distribute them, Marvel makes them, which means as part of that deal that Marvel and Disney and Sony have, Disney doesn't get to take home all the money. They're making the movie, they're not distributing it. Sony is. Sony still owns the Spider-Man rights, so that means that Disney only gets to take a part of that money home. And so for Disney, from a business standpoint, for Bob Iger from a business standpoint, their next MCU movie proper, as it were, like something that is completely in-house, would be Avengers Doomsday, which comes out in December of 2026, which means if you now do the math on that, that's like a year and a half after Fantastic Four comes out. Yeah. So, I mean, do you understand the frustration Disney has with these ideas? Because, I mean, it's a little bit of their own making, honestly, because like they're the ones that shuffle the movies around. So on that level, I'm like, you created this problem. Why are you frustrated about it? But
Yeah.
it's also maybe the matter of there's no other movies on deck. Like, it's just Fantastic Four. There's a Spider-Man movie, which Sony probably wanted to do a Spider-Man 4 sooner than later anyway.
Mhm.
And then you have Avengers Doomsday. Like, there's nothing else. There's no Shang-Chi 2. There's no Doctor Strange 3. Like, there's no other sequels. There's no other new character introductions. Everything we're getting is on Disney Plus. Whether it's Wonder Man or there's a Punisher special coming out. There's a Daredevil Born Again season 2. You have all of those things, but no other movies. I mean, where do you stand on this, Bridget? Do you think this is something that Marvel can maybe fix, if it even is a problem that needs fixing? Like, or do you think this concern on Disney part is even warranted, considering how much money these movies will make, the ones that are on the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, well, on one hand, it's like I am kind of glad that they are. I would rather them take more time to make something good than spit out movies every other month, making it feel like a ton of stuff, because obviously that just is like we went through that superhero fatigue phase with them. But on the other hand, thinking like, oh yeah, like that was a long gap. It felt like a long gap between the Marvels and Deadpool. Like I'm like, was there really nothing in between that? Because those were along
almost a year apart. Yeah.
And that's how it felt, and you can feel it, and it's like, oh, like what's going on with Marvel? Like anybody home? So I think maybe the audience, like consumers, might feel that, especially if it's going to be longer. It's I think there does need, of course, there's like even with this like Minecraft reference, like in the movie, where he's like on the cart and then he hits the red track, keep that momentum going. If there's no red track up ahead, after the momentum of a movie, if there's a whole year gap, I think it is hard to kind of keep that momentum. I mean, it might build some anticipation, but I think it's going to be difficult for them. And part of me is like, well, Bob Iger's also the one during the strikes making those terrible comments. And I kind of am like, this is kind of the bed you made, and it's kind of the bed you're in. So
yeah, now you gotta lay in
deal with it. I don't know. It's kind of but I understand what he's feeling, but it's kind of like consequences, I think, of the strike and production delays, and wanting to maybe greenlight a lot of projects, and now trying to slow that down it's just tough.
Yeah, I mean, look, and this report is coming from Jeff Snyder, the Insider. Of course, John's favorite insider in Hollywood. I say that in jest, of course, but yeah, the whole idea that Bob Iger is particularly vexed at the fact that Disney is only going to be putting out essentially one Marvel movie the rest of this year, and then only one Marvel movie next year, even though it is a co-production with Brand New Day, the new Spider-Man movie. I have a feeling that they'll be fine, like financially, because these movies will make a lot of money. Like they're pretty surefire bets. Between the Spider-Man film, the last two have made $1 billion. The last one almost made $2 billion. Every Avenger movie going all the way back to the first one has made at least $1 billion. The last two made close to $2. Well, the previous Avengers movie, Endgame, made close to $3 billion. The one before that made $2 billion. So they'll be fine. But there's a question from Anna's Time saying, based on the hype that surrounds Marvel after they announced their project at Comic-Con, do you think the general public won't care if the projects are interesting? Meaning people will just go and watch them regardless of how good or bad they are.
I mean, it's possible, but even because Thunderbolts came out and that has amazing Rotten Tomato scores, but I even heard like people didn't really show. I mean, Lilo and Stitch obviously did better, and they didn't show up as maybe predicted, because apparently it's a good movie, and I haven't seen it, but I do want to, now that I've heard.
Yeah. But it's making all the money. It's already crossed the box office of Thunderbolts in like 5 days that Thunderbolts has made in its entire run. So
I know, but it makes me wonder too if maybe people maybe having the association that the Marvel movies just were deteriorating. So even though this is what I've heard, a good movie,
it's a step in the right direction. Thunderbolts,
it still didn't have the
maybe the star. I think the star power wasn't there. The recognizability.
So
no, it's a fair question. It's a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I guess, yes, if there is enough, like if the project itself, I think, as you said before too, it's the project that's really going to, I think, bring that interest, because I think just so far they do kind of, at least in my mind and from people that I've talked to, I think that they have a reputation that they need to kind of build again.
Yeah. Well, I think they're trying to obviously change course with these new movies, the new Avengers films, but it's gonna take a while, and I guess, you know, rebuild that trust with the audiences, but also in the meantime, they just have to suffer with the gaps, and it's just the way their schedule is built out. They've got 5 TV shows this year and like 2 movies, but like next year, all of a sudden, I mean, technically they do have 2 movies, but one of them is like a half Sony movie, right? So, Ron was saying the thing with the MCU is that most of their main initial actors are done with their iconic roles. None of the new characters have the depth.
Yeah,
that's a very good point, because I think they were relying on having somebody like a Doctor Strange or a Black Panther with Chadwick Boseman be the new faces of the franchise, and obviously with the passing of Chadwick Boseman, and then I don't think Benedict Cumberbatch's character never quite became as central to the MCU as they maybe had planned to or wanted to. Things kind of got sidetracked, and I feel like they really missed an opportunity with making Shang-Chi one of those faces, because for whatever reason they just keep delaying and delaying. I don't know when we're gonna get a Shang-Chi 2. So that could have been one of the new prime franchises. And then outside of that, they haven't really created a ton of new characters. Yesterday we had this whole story about Thor, like with Chris Hemsworth posting this, like, it's been an amazing experience. Up next, Doomsday, with like this whole video reminiscing on his time as Thor, which I'm like, dude, are you gonna be like dying in these upcoming Avengers movies, and you're about to have your last day on set? So this is kind of like you saying goodbye, with, you know, without actually saying goodbye, because you don't want to, you know, ruin any surprises. Like, so we're getting to a point where like all the OG Avengers are slowly shuffling their way out of this, MCU, and quite frankly, when you look at the new cast members, there's not a ton that stand out. I mean, I think there's some minor standouts. Like you have, and when I say minor, I think like, you know, Miss Marvel is one of the big surprises, and I think probably one of the best characters they've got going. But most people know her from the show. Most people didn't watch the show, and the Marvels like basically flopped. We talked about it. So you gotta increase her screen presence before she can truly be one of the faces of the franchise, if that were even their plan. And I don't know, like, it's hard to come up with names. Like, what other characters can you put at the center of this new universe? So, yeah. I mean, Frankie's saying maybe a reboot in 5 years is the way to go. I mean, maybe they'll try to do a bit of like a soft reboot with Secret Wars. That might be the way to go, because obviously they're moving into the X-Men and the mutant saga, as it were. So, yeah. And then a lot of the new characters ended up being on TV, because like Ron was saying earlier, like Bob Chapek was like, put as much stuff on Disney Plus as you can, and so they did. But that also means that the movies have suffered, like, because they did a Deadpool and Wolverine movie where Ryan Reynolds does not want to do another solo Deadpool movie, and Wolverine was done like years ago when Hugh Jackman did Logan, so he only came back for this one time. So I'm like, that movie doesn't build anything for the future. It was just a one-off. And it's got to be worth it for the people, like Enterprising is saying. Because people are very picky with what they go see in a movie theater, because their movie going habits have changed since COVID. Let's be honest, we are not back to that level of movie going the way we were before the pandemic. I don't know if it's ever going to recover. So you really have to make it worth people's while.
It is.
And the Marvels and Eternals were both pretty big misfires. Ron agrees with you, Enterprising. But hey, quickly, by the way, yes, Moon Knight. Oh my God, that's a huge missed opportunity. I wish they did so much better with that show. It did not stick the landing. But yeah, I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine did make money, but that's the thing. It didn't have any lasting, value to the franchise. It was great for the movie that it was. It doesn't set up anything for down the road, and that's, I think, the problem with that movie. You can do nostalgia bait movies like that all day long, but they will only take you so far. And people are thinking that might be what Doomsday and Secret Wars end up being anyway. So what does that do to set up the path forward? Are we gonna basically be starting fresh? Which might be their plan anyway with the X-Men. So there you go. The other thing that we didn't mention was the Blade catastrophe, like Enterprise brought up. That was something that must have irked and still does irk Bob Iger. Like they haven't figured that thing out for like the 5 years since they've announced the movie, and they still can't figure that out. So yeah, I mean, that's another thing that they have to sort out, because one of those gaps within the next year could have been a Blade movie coming out, right? Like, and now we don't have that because they can't seem to get a director or a script together for that movie. Ron was saying I wasn't here yesterday, but I'll say it here. The Batman Deadpool crossover has me disappointed. Yeah, we did talk about that yesterday. So, if you want to go back and check that out, Liz and I both gave our thoughts on it. It's interesting. I mean, it will be fun to see what it develops into, if it is anything more than what it is, which is going to be 2 one-off comics, one from Marvel, one from DC. The artwork looks nice. The DC Comics version is using the new blue and black Batman design. So I'm interested in seeing where what it ends up being, but honestly, I don't think it's gonna end up with anything that becomes a movie or TV show. So we'll just enjoy it for what it is. Marvel and DC doing anything together is it's fun. It's a fun thing, like when the 2 biggest comic book companies cross over. Ron saying it's dumb. Well, that's your opinion and you're allowed to have it. I mean, I for one am just curious to see what it turns out to be. I'm not saying it's the best idea, like you're saying of all the things that could have crossed over, Batman and Deadpool, which I mean, sure, like there is Batman fighting Deathstroke in the comics, so maybe that's and Deathstroke and Deadpool are kind of almost rip-offs of each other, so maybe that was the logic behind it. Green Lantern and Guardians of the Galaxy would have been a more fun crossover according to Enterprising. We talked about it, like there were a bunch of other options you guys pitched yesterday, so absolutely. A Superman and Captain America team up would have been nice. Yeah. But you know what? Here's the thing. This is how you can make that happen. Go get these comics when they come out. The Batman Deadpool one. If they sell really well, that will tell them we should do more crossovers. But if they just come out and shit the bed, then they're not going to do more crossovers, because it's a lot of work and coordination across 2 different companies. And regardless of whether Marvel is writing, well, I guess DC and Marvel both writing their own versions, they are going to be sending those things back and forth between each other's legal departments, making sure that Marvel isn't making Batman look bad, and then DC isn't making Deadpool look bad.
Yeah.
That is all, a lot of work and time and effort, and they can very easily say, we're not doing any more of this. But if you guys go and get yourself a copy and everybody does that, then it was more likely that they'll have a financial incentive to do a Captain America Superman crossover or something else to that effect.
Yeah.
Like
the money speaks at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Or even like a Joker kill Deadpool or Deadpool kill Joker, whatever. Like, all of those things. But
I honestly agree with that. I want that.
Yeah. Bridget, before we finish this Marvel conversation, though, regarding their upcoming schedule, in this article, they kind of pitched a few ideas for maybe how Marvel can resolve their issue of like, oh my God, we only have like 1 movie coming out in 2026, even though, Spider-Man is also an MCU film, but it's like half Sony, so it doesn't quite count the same.
Yeah.
One of the things they mentioned is maybe they can do anniversary screenings of these beloved MCU hits with special footage, like maybe re-release Captain America Civil War, or maybe re-release a number of the movies that will tie into potentially Avengers Doomsday. Like, in fact, they could drive a lot of buzz around the idea of like, oh, they're re-releasing Doctor Strange 3? How does that tie into Doomsday? It must tie in somehow. There's special footage, and then you can even give a sneak peek at Doomsday or something. So like that could drive a lot of attention, and the fandom could go really just boost the box office of these old movies. Kind of like, not the same thing, but it's like Captain Marvel was sort of meant to be like essential watch or like must watch for going into Avengers Endgame, even though you could have just skipped the movie and still enjoyed Endgame just the same. But that movie, at least in part, not entirely because it was meant to be this must watch connected to Endgame, but in part, that's the reason why it made $1 billion. So, I mean, if you re-release some of these movies, people are gonna be like, oh, these are the dots that connect to Doomsday. I wonder how. Let's go watch it again. There's special footage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that. Then there are a couple other ideas that they pitched were rethinking some Disney Plus shows and maybe turning them into theatrical releases. Specifically, they mentioned, let's take the Punisher special that they're doing in Disney Plus and turn it into a movie. Which I'm like, you know what? It's basically a TV movie, just like spruce it up a little bit and send it into a movie theater. Like, I bet you people are going to want to watch John Bernthal.
On the big screen,
Yeah, I mean, I bet you the budget for this thing is not like 150 million, so it's not like it needs to make 300 million. Like, it could be one of those smaller budget movies that Marvel really isn't known for, but this could be the pilot for that, and it might end up being a really good choice because they'll make a lot more money bringing this out in a movie theater and getting the box office from it than just putting it on Disney Plus and hoping people subscribe for it. So
that's true.
Yeah, and one of the other things they mentioned, Wonder Man with Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who was in Aquaman movies over at DC. He's going to be Wonder Man for them. That's going to have 8 30-minute episodes. You could easily just take that, which is essentially 4 hours, but you take away all the credits, that might be 3 hours.
Yeah.
You can edit that into a movie, and maybe even if you need to stitch a few things together, do some reshoots or whatever, that doesn't come out until later this year. So maybe they can turn that into a movie and release it next year as a theatrical film. And I bet you that also didn't cost them as much as like a traditional MCU movie does, like, which usually starts out at 180 million or higher.
Yeah.
Do you think between maybe the idea of making Punisher and Wonder Man movies instead of Disney Plus shows or specials, and then maybe just re-releasing other previous MCU films that might tie into the upcoming ones, are those potential ideas they should entertain if they do want to fill up their release schedule a bit more for Marvel?
Yeah, I think that is actually a good idea, especially because there is so much stuff on streaming anyway. I feel like we get more eyes on it because it's not like it has a lot of other Marvel content that it's competing with anyway in this long span. So if they could kind of take this time to maybe transition these into films, and as you said, like it's not like they have to make a ton of money back, and it could kind of like put the spotlight on these, but also fulfill that crave that fans want to be in the theaters to watch something like this. Or again, even, I don't know, to do like an Avengers marathon kind of during that halfway point to kind of get people's memories fresh and ready for the next movie, I think would be a great move for sure. If they're thinking about marketing themselves in that way, I think would be both great ideas.
Yeah. I think so too. I think these are some good options. I don't know if they really care to follow through on any of them, but I mean, re-releasing Civil War would, I'm sure, bring a lot of people back to the theaters. Especially there's some rumors around Fantastic Four that might involve both Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. So, that might end up being a good one to do potentially. So, yeah, well, we'll just have to wait and see, because as of right now, it looks like, according to Jeff Snyder, Bob Iger was vexed, that's the word that Jeff Snyder used, at the idea that Marvel has, technically, they've got like Fantastic Four coming out in July this year, and then the next Marvel produced and distributed movie is Avengers Doomsday, which comes out in December of next year. And then even when you could count in Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is only like half an MCU movie because it's, they share the revenue with Sony, that comes out in July of next year, a full year and 6 days after Fantastic Four. So Bob Iger hoping that maybe they can, they should have had a few other movies come out in between. Maybe a Blade movie would have been nice. I don't know, guys. Let us know in the comments down below what you think about that. Of course, we'd love to hear from you, and hit that like button while you're at it. Right now, we have one more Marvel story to talk about. So Fantastic Four, as we've been mentioning, is on the horizon. It's coming out really, really soon. In July, it will follow up Superman in a couple of weeks after Superman releases. So it's going to be a packed July. But Bridget, they've got some new insights and a couple of new posters from Fantastic Four First Steps. So let's dive into that real quick. We have to get into a little bit of maybe speculation, maybe some theory crafting, but also we have to be careful because there may be some spoilers ahead. So guys, if you are watching and you do not want the post-credit scene, which supposedly has leaked online, to be spoiled for you, then definitely mute the show right now until you see the screen change, and then get back into it. But in the meantime, let's kind of talk about this. According to this article in comicbookmovie.com, they might have leaked the post-credit sequence for Fantastic Four after a recent test screening. Now, as we always say, test screenings, take it with a grain of salt. People who go to test screenings sign very, very strict NDAs. If they let any information out into the public eye, they can get sued to oblivion. So I don't know if this is true, but we will talk about it. But we have a very spirited conversation going on in the chat right now. But anyway, let's dive into this. I'm gonna read the description. So again, spoiler alert if you guys don't want to be spoiled. But My Time to Shine, who's one of those scoopers in Hollywood, recently mentioned that the post-credit sequence is going to feature, in fact, Doctor Doom, saying that the stinger at the end of the movie after the credits roll shows Sue Storm, of course played by Vanessa Kirby, reading to her and Reed Richards' son, Franklin Richards, which we know in the comics is like a big meta-human, one of the most powerful characters in all of Marvel. we know from the toy lineup that we're gonna get potentially Reed's and Sue's son Franklin in the movie at some point, because she's meant to be pregnant in the movie. So maybe she gives birth by the end of the film. So in this sequence now, we'll have basically Sue reading to her son Franklin, and then she gets up, and when she comes back into the room, she sees Dr. Doom holding his mask and sitting next to Franklin, but apparently we don't get to see his face. So it's like a faceless cameo, a little bit like that Superman cameo in the first Shazam movie. But the costume and mask are described as very comic accurate. So Bridget, what do you think about this rumor? There's also a rumor here that Chris Evans may or may not appear in the movie My Time to Shine, saying, I know for a fact he filmed something, so it was either cut or will be in the final version of the film. So really just saying he may or may not be in there, so whatever. Like that one, I think I don't know how that would even fit. But I mean, the speculation now becomes maybe Dr. Doom kidnaps Franklin Richards and maybe then comes over to Earth 616, which is our main MCU timeline from the alternate reality that Fantastic Four takes place in. And maybe that's the reason why the Fantastic Four follow Dr. Doom into our universe to get Franklin back, as opposed to because of the destruction of their universe. I mean, what do you think about all of this information? Because is that post-credit sequence, do you think that's gonna be what we get? A faceless cameo, but we get Dr. Doom nonetheless? Do you think he's kidnapping Franklin? Do you think Chris Evans will make a cameo in Fantastic Four? Is any of this true?
Yeah, I guess, again, it is all speculation, but it is. I do like that as a post-credit scene. I think that's a great tie-in to a future, to the next film. Especially, as if you said, it's like their mission is to then get him after being kidnapped. I think I would prefer that versus like another destruction of the world film. If it's kind of like it's like a really specific mission. That's, I think, more different than kind of the general trope that we've seen. So I think that if that's true, then that's, I think, kind of exciting to see that as a possibility. Yeah. The Captain America. So I guess if someone's saying that they've seen, the speculation is that they've seen him in costume filming, and so they think it's for this then.
Well, officially, Chris Evans keeps saying he's not in any of these movies. I mean, which, we've seen actors lie about that before.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't want to give away any spoilers, but I mean, my take on this is I really find it hard to believe Chris Evans has done something here, because even when you look at My Time to Shine, he's saying, oh yeah, he knows that he filmed something, but if it's gonna be in there or not, he has no idea. So he's really not committing to the idea that we're gonna get Chris Evans, whatever he filmed, in the movie or not. He's saying he's either gonna get cut or will be in the final version of the movie. Okay, great. That's not helpful at all.
Yeah.
You just basically said there is something that exists, whether it's in the movie or not, you don't know. Cool. Okay. So you have plausible deniability on your statements. That's what a lot of these scoopers usually say. So if they're wrong,
it can't be proven wrong either.
Yeah, you can't be proven wrong. It's not falsifiable. Like you can't really work with that. So yeah, but I just want to say, guys, be civil in the chat. I know you guys are having a spirited conversation. As long as you keep things respectful, that's all we ask for. Frankie G saying, I need Chris Evans. Yes, well, we all appreciate Chris Evans, because we mentioned yesterday's show, he skipped the con premiere of his movie to just be with his mom on her 70th birthday. That's a boss move. So I would love to get more Chris Evans in anything. I think he's a fantastic actor, obviously a great person in real life. Maybe a Cold War era Captain America movie would be fun. Whether we get it with Chris Evans or not, I have no idea if he's interested in coming back in the MCU at that level. But as far as the post-credit sequence they're suggesting here, a faceless Dr. Doom cameo, I'm not really sure. I'm not willing to buy it. I mean, look, it's My Time to Shine has a very spotty track record, so I would need something more reliable than just his word for it. So until we get
imagination, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if that was the thing, because then we get a Doctor Doom cameo a year and a half before we get the movie. It would be nice to hold us over until we get Spider-Man the following summer. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
we will have to just wait and see. But the next thing I want to get into, Bridget, we do have potentially the runtime of Fantastic Four First Steps revealed. According to AMC Theaters listing for the movie, it's listed at 2 hours and 10 minutes. Now, this could be just a placeholder. But let's just assume for the moment that it is the real runtime. Do you think that's a good runtime? Do you think that's too short, too long? What are your thoughts on it?
I think that's good. I would hope it wouldn't go over 2.5. So I think, 2 hours 10, I think that's pretty solid before your butt really starts to hurt in the seats.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I mean, Ron asking, oh, it's longer than Superman. Well, we did talk about the Superman runtime rumors that were exploding on the internet yesterday. James Gunn actually answered the question and debunked it himself on Threads, saying that it's not 2 hours, 2 minutes, which is the number that they were talking about for Superman. He said that he's not even got a picture lock yet. So, of course, they don't know the final runtime.
Right.
They might know in the next week or two, maybe. I mean, but like as of right now, Superman doesn't have an official runtime. And given that Fantastic Four comes out a couple of weeks after Superman, I want to say this runtime, 2 hours and 10 minutes, is a placeholder, because they might be in the same position. They might still be, in post-production and haven't got a picture lock. So honestly, I don't think we're getting the official runtime here, but 2 hours and 10 minutes seems about right. Maybe that's not the exact number. Maybe the ultimate final official number will be a few minutes higher, a few minutes lower. But I think depending on the story, that's what's going to determine whether it's a good runtime or not. A 2 hour movie could, drag like a 3.5 hour movie, or it could feel like a breezy 90-minute film. It just depends on, whether it's the right runtime for that movie and the story that they're trying to tell. So we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. But I think as of right now, 2 hours, 10 minutes, a good placeholder, a good place to start. But the official runtime, I bet you we're not going to find out for at least another few weeks, because both this and Superman are still in post-production. But they did put out a couple of Empire covers, Bridget. There is a cover on Empire featuring the main cast, of course. You've got Joseph Quinn, Vanessa Kirby, Evan Moss-Bachrach, and, of course, Pedro Pascal on one of the covers for Empire. What do you think about this look here? You got the fantastic car in the background. You didn't really see Herbie in this shot, but you do get to see the skyline of New York City from this alternate universe, which has got a bit of a Toronto feel to it, with like that tower on the left. But it's retro 60s vibe. What do you think about this cover?
Yeah, it does look really cool. I don't know why, but in the last photo, Vanessa looked, I feel like, quite different. Maybe it's just like the different angles. But yeah, it's I do like the whole setting, especially, and how they even how that kind of.
The colors are different, yeah, for sure. The colors, well, they feel a bit different. Like this other photo
Yeah,
seems
it's
like
a little more
much more
muted.
saturated. Like
Yeah.
whereas here it's much more, like you said, muted by comparison in terms of the color. Maybe it's just because it's a print magazine. You do see Silver Surfer in the background there. I just noticed that. I don't know how I missed
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But
So
I mean, maybe even the color here does feel more like vintage 70s, a little bit more muted. So
yeah.
no, but I definitely, it's
Yep.
exciting. I like that it's a bit. I like that it's also dated overall. I think it's going to add a cool element to it. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where this will go from here.
Yep. Frankie's saying maybe it's RGB versus CMYK. That might be it. That might be it. It's also, they're the way they're lit is a little bit different in different, artwork. So that might be it too. But no, that could simply be the case. Print versus digital. So yeah. By the way, Dan, this magazine feels like the type of magazine Lex Luthor would hate. Oh yeah, probably. I mean, they actually have Lex Luthor on the top of the cover saying Superman, Nicholas Hoult on the joy of Lex, ironically enough. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, look, Enterprising saying the movie will be a blockbuster hit and fun for the entire family. I'm sure you mean both Superman and Fantastic Four. I'd love the comment there. They say, I'm sorry, I'm so hungry, but the thing's head looks like a caramel popcorn, which is funny. So I'm like, there you go. That's one way to look at things. The next poster, that's not a poster, but another cover of Empire, an alternate cover. The one they're saying is a subscriber cover for Empire magazine. Is going to be featuring, of course, it features Galactus and the Silver Surfer, and Galactus with his hand over the Earth that the Fantastic Four come from. So showing much, the impending doom of their world, because Galactus is deemed that he's going to be coming for this Earth, and the Silver Surfer, of course, is his messenger. Bridget, do you like this cover? Do you prefer this one over the other cover that we were just looking at?
I mean, this one definitely seems more doom and gloom. Yeah, actually, I I actually think I do like this one better. I don't know. It's just this style maybe seems more of to like kind of see, you can kind of see the whole action of the movie, which I think excites me more. Maybe the other one just seems kind of like happy family.
They're just like, heads, like just floating head poster, right? Like that's what that looks like.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is much more comic book inspired, it seems.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, let's kind of wrap up the story on the Fantastic Four. I'm getting distracted by the chat. But yeah, that's all the Fantastic Four stuff we've got for today. Guys, let us know in the comments down below. What do you think about the rumor for the post-credit sequence being leaked for Fantastic Four? Do you think we're gonna get a headless Doctor Doom cameo? What do you think about the Empire magazine covers, whether it's the one featuring our main cast or Galactus and Silver Surfer? Get in the comments down below. We'd love to hear from you. Of course, the runtime also is something you can, tell us about. Do you think 2 hours 10 minutes is a good runtime for the movie? And before we get into the next set of things, I just wanted to kind of quickly do a check-in on the comments. Earlier, Elite Easy E was giving props to Warner Brothers, saying they've appeared more organized in the 2 years since Discovery bought them. I agree with you. Absolutely. They've got a strategy, and David Zaslav has led the way, and he's made some, controversial decisions, but that's the job of a CEO. But he's also made a lot of decisions that will hopefully pay off for them in the long run, including maybe starting out with Superman and DC Studios. Then you also have Enterprising saying, I just wish the embittered negativity wasn't the tag along. Yeah, I mean, look, there is going to always be some people who, don't like Superman, and they'll, always be out there. But so far, at least, that's a vocal minority. And we'll just have to wait and see how the movie is ultimately. Then Manus Time was saying, how sure are you about that though? It's going to flop because it will have jokes. Funny how Deadpool and Wolverine proved the opposite. I think you were talking about Superman, and Five Ash is not a big fan of what that movie's looking like with James Gunn at the helm. So yeah, well, I mean, look, we don't know yet, right? We just have to wait and see when the movie comes out if it will flop or not. Steven Ortega was saying, Dan, the Karate Kid reviews are rough. It has a 55% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Yes, Steven. We did talk about this yesterday. Liz and I went over some of the reviews, and so far the number, like he said, is not looking very good. It's looking pretty mediocre. But then again, maybe the fans will watch it and love it, because everybody who's reviewing it, they're not like saying it's the worst movie ever if it's a negative review, and then the positive reviews aren't saying it's the best thing ever. So they're kind of in the middle. And they do say the movie works well when it leans into nostalgia. Ben Wang is really, really fantastic. So we'll just have to wait and see this weekend. You guys can go check the movie out for yourself, make up your mind, and see if you enjoy it. And that's what it comes down to. And if the people love it, like we've seen plenty of movies that have like a low Rotten Tomato score and really high audience score. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Enterprising is a bit bummed about the reviews, but then again, guys, look, you may still yet go watch the movie and enjoy it for yourself. So just give it a shot, and see if it works for you. Manos Time saying, telling Ron, even though I don't like Jeff Snyder, he explained it well. It'll be a good movie, but it won't have a major impact in the industry like Iron Man or The Dark Knight. I have a feeling you guys are you're referencing Superman or maybe Fantastic Four. So, well, both movies. I mean, look, here's the thing: they potentially could have that level of impact. It just depends, on their reception, and ultimately if they're good movies to begin with. So we'll just have to wait and find out. But we'll find out very, very soon. And right now, what we're gonna find out is what we have on deck for the quick hits, because we do have to get into those, and then we have DCU Daily coming up. So we have a bunch of DC stuff to talk about still. But before we do, as we always like to wrap up the news segment of the show, is with that Bossa Nova elevator music. Let's dive into the quick hit, shall we, Bridget? So the very first quick hit that we have is a tease from Ana de Armas, maybe potentially featuring and joining up with Keanu Reeves for John Wick 5. She was talking to The Direct recently, and in that interview, she was asked, well, hey, do you think your ballerina will cross over with John Wick in his next movie? Because, of course, we know Keanu Reeves is showing up in Ballerina, and that takes place between two of the previous John Wick movies, the events of Ballerina. So, technically, they already know each other, and, that's what Ana de Armas said. And more specifically, she mentioned that would be really cool. I would love that. Why not? I mean, they already know each other, right? Why wouldn't I? I would love that. That would be amazing. So, of course, she's not committing to anything. But Bridget, as they say in the article, what would Ballerina and John Wick 5 even look like? I mean, this is before we have seen Ballerina, so I don't know. Maybe Ballerina sucks, and then the movie is terrible, and we'd never get to see Ana de Armas again. But
no. Yeah.
What do you think?
Of course, it depends, but I mean, I love Ana de Armas, and I feel like I know John was like, meh, but I'm excited for this movie, and of course, yes, you can't cast any votes just yet, but it seems like she's manifesting a John Wick 5.
Maybe.
Maybe good energy out there. So.
Yeah. We'll have to just wait and find out, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure they're already working on John Wick 5, so maybe they will include her in there.
Yeah.
Jose's like, 5 Ash, we meet again. It's like a scene out of old spaghetti western. But Monique, yeah, I mean, Chad Stahelski did do a lot of reshoots. I don't think it was hell, but for Ballerina, but I mean, they did the reshoots to include more John Wick in the movie. So by the same token, maybe they can bring Ballerina into John Wick 5. Manus Time saying, I've seen an early screening of Ballerina. If you want action, there are scenes in this movie that are amazing. Yeah, dude, that's what I've heard. A few other people have seen it too, and everything I've heard from them is this movie is gonna be fun. It's very much fits into the franchise as a whole, and it might be a great addition to what they've already put out there. So we'll just have to wait and see how good it will be. But Alex Garland, right now, as we mentioned, I think it was last week, he's working on the Elden Ring adaptation, the live-action movie adaptation of the video game. And as part of that, he's looking to reunite with his Warfare actor, Kit Connor. And he might be a part of this new A24 and Bandai Namco Entertainment Elden Ring movie. Of course, Kit Connor, I believe he was on that... why am I forgetting? He was on that really cute Netflix show. But, I mean... that show's wrapping up soon. Heartstopper. Or I think it might have already wrapped up its final season. So he's also been in, of course, that other Alex Garland movie, Warfare. So, Bridget, what do you think about this potential reunion? Alex Garland bringing in Kit Connor for the Elden Ring movie.
Yeah, I feel like, not that I haven't really seen Warfare, but I'm sure the chops that he was able to do in that would transfer well to this kind of movie, because I mean I know it's like more military based, but I used to watch my brother a little bit playing this growing up, and I know that's like a fantasy, but I can I feel like the actors who tend to be good in those adventure roles are still kind of good at these. I feel like there's a good crossover.
No, it's fair. I mean, we'll just I guess we'll have to wait and see again what it turns into when the movie how it comes together, but so far it's not confirmed. So he is eyeing Kit Connor, who of course, like I mentioned, just finished up Heartstopper on Netflix, and he's already done Warfare with Alex Garland, so they would just be doing another project together. Speaking of projects that are coming up, Anthony Boyle is set to play Sam Bankman-Fried opposite Julia Garner, who of course is in the Fantastic Four movie as our new Silver Surfer, and she would be playing Caroline Ellison in Netflix's FTX series, The Altruist. This is of course gonna cover the rise and fall of FTX. It's a limited series on Netflix. Bridget, is this one that interests you? Would you watch it when it comes out?
Yeah, it's funny. I watched her in Inventing Anna, which I feel like is kind of a similar role to this, being in court, getting in trouble. Maybe that's like her type now, but that's funny. I like her though. I saw her at Coachella.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Julia Garner is a rising star, so I can't wait to see what she does next. And Anthony Boyle is also a very talented actor. So, and I'm sure the top subject matter is going to draw a lot of people anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of subject matter, Survivor 50 has announced its cast, and Mike White is returning to battle Siri Fields, Ozzy Lust, and more fan favorites.
Love Survivor. I was on it. Oh my gosh. But no, I know all these seasons, and oh my gosh, it's so funny because I watched Mike White on that. Years later, I started watching. I didn't really know him as much until White Lotus, and I was like, oh, that's the guy from Survivor. That's crazy.
He's the creator of the White Lotus. Yeah, he's coming back to Survivor. Like, that's crazy. I was like, wait, what? Okay, cool. I guess maybe that's where he got some of his inspiration from. Who knows? But yeah, Survivor 50. This is
I'll watch.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to see how it turns out for these guys. Well, as far as turning out for Apple, they are apparently considering just skipping iOS 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and jumping from 19 all the way to 26 as part of their plan to adopt a year-based naming strategy. So I guess next year in 2026, they'll go from releasing iOS 19 this year to iOS 26. I don't know. I think Windows or Microsoft wanted to do this at one point in time, but then that plan got started pretty quickly. What do you think, Bridget? Like, does this make sense to you? Like, would you be confused that you skipped like 7 updates if you went from 19 to 26 all of a sudden?
I feel like a lot of maybe the older generation is going to be in for a shock when they're like,
yeah, like Windows 95. Exactly, Monique. I remember that. I remember that was a thing. Yeah.
So I guess, so it's not 25. They're just going to next year already.
Yeah, so they're currently is iOS 19. So then the next one, so next year would have been 20. They usually release one new big OS update a year, but I guess they're just thinking we're just gonna go to 26. I mean, my problem with this primarily has to do with the fact that it's confusing in a way where people expect these updates to be incremental, so the number goes up. So you know that 20 came after 19.
Yeah.
When you go from 19 to 26, especially considering how you have, had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all the way to 19 so far, you're gonna be wondering what the hell happened, But This is not the first time something like this would have been done. Microsoft went from like Windows 8 to Windows 10. They just kind of skipped Windows 9. So, and Windows 95 was a thing anyway. So like Windows 98, blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
I guess I feel like if they're going to do this, they should plan it so it's like beginning of January, and then it's like 26 because it's now 2026. And then, but like the middle of this, well, I guess in the summer, it just seems so random.
Yeah, well, I mean, they might announce it this fall, and then it might not roll out till early next year.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's usually how the updates go, yeah. But still confusing.
Like next month it was dropping, and I was like, that's weird. Okay, that makes way more sense.
Yeah, like going from 19 to 26. Like, what happened to the 6 updates in the middle? I don't know. Well, speaking of things that might irk some people, New York Times, while they're currently suing OpenAI and Microsoft alleging copyright infringement, because they're suing them over potentially OpenAI and Microsoft's AI using New York Times articles to help train their algorithms, they have gone ahead and inked a deal with Amazon's AI to license all of their content, and what is a first of its kind of a deal. So I guess New York Times now making their entire library available to Amazon AI for training up and using their articles and all their coverage of all the news from the decades and decades of coverage New York Times has had. And they're doing this while suing OpenAI and Microsoft. It seems a little hypocritical.
Yeah.
But I guess New York Times is like, we're gonna make money doing this, so we're gonna license it out to Amazon and then ask Microsoft and OpenAI, maybe at this point I'm guessing they're gonna maybe want to settle with them and say, hey, we're willing to license. As long as you pay us, you can use our content and to train up your AI, but you can't do it for free. Is that the message you see on this?
This news? Definitely. Yeah, I think they're just trying to get the highest bidder at this point, and it's sad because it seems like, oh, they're just trying to fight AI. No, they're just selling out. They just for what price?
It's you know what, I subscribe to the New York Times, so well, now I know that Amazon is going to be training up on their content. There you go. The next thing is, speaking of Amazon, they've ordered the docuseries on the first ever esports World Cup directed by RJ Cutler. Are you a fan of esports at all, Bridget?
No, I only watch like Winter Olympics. Sorry.
There you go. Well, I mean, the esports are fun for those who follow it. It's a very passionate fan base. But I mean, hey, look, Amazon ordering a docuseries. I'm sure there's an audience for it out there. We'll just have to wait and see what it turns into. This, on the other hand, I thought was really amazing because I saw this on Instagram, as you can see there. Apple TV posting Tremel Tillman basically congratulating the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Using all the big words, and the post says there's no such thing as too many big words. Exultant. EXULTANT. Congratulations to all the spelling bee participants. But I mean, this is funny. I love it because it kind of ties into the show, especially the season 2, how they used all the words, like famously. And there's one scene he's like, devour feculence. It means eat shit. I was like, yes. This is perfect. This was funny. This made my day.
That is funny. Great opportunity to make that.
I love the cross branding opportunity here. I love it. All right. The next thing, Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune distribution goes to CBS, at least until the legal battle with Sony is over. This is something we've been following for a while now. So basically, Sony said that CBS was in breach of contract and they were taking over the distribution for the shows, which have been with CBS for decades, as you know, both Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. But it looks like now a second court, so already one court had made a decision in favor of CBS. Now a second appeals court has done the same, saying that CBS gets to hold on to the distribution rights for Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune until the entire dispute has been settled. Meaning Sony was saying, we will start distributing the show immediately, on both shows. So they were going to cut CBS out entirely. CBS, of course, sued, saying that, no, this is not how it's going to go. So the basically at this point, it looks like CBS is going to continue to have the distribution rights until the overall legal battle is settled. So a little bit of a loss for Sony there, but hey, good for CBS. They get to hold on to two of their most iconic franchises, which of course is made by Sony. So Sony probably wants more control over it. They want the money. Yeah. Next thing up, we have Colin Trevorrow, of course, one of the directors of the Jurassic World franchise from their previous trilogy. He's partnering up with Maximum Effort on a conspiracy thriller at Paramount Pictures. This is kind of cool because of course, he's not really as involved with the Jurassic World franchise anymore, but this conspiracy thriller, I believe, has to do with Area 51. So it's set in the late 1980s. The project follows a local Las Vegas TV news journalist who first broke the story of Area 51. Thomas and William Wheeler wrote the script and will executive produce alongside the Metronome's Annis Hamilton. I mean, Bridget, we've talked about it in recent times, that it seems like UFO movies are back in vogue. You got Steven Spielberg working on one, Joseph Kosinski and what's his name? The big famous producer behind Top Gun Maverick, Jerry Bruckheimer. They're working on a new UFO related movie for Apple TV Plus. And now in the latest example, you've got, of course, the director of one of the Jurassic World franchise movies from the previous trilogy, Colin Trevorrow, now partnering up with Maximum Effort at Paramount Pictures to work on another Area 51 movie. Is this one that interests you? Do you think we are in a new heyday of conspiracy thrillers like X-Files and the like from the 90s?
I don't know. I mean, that's so interesting. I feel like maybe it comes in waves, because I feel like there was that time where it's like, like aliens, conspiracies. I kind of felt like we were going away from that. I feel like it was all the conspiracies, tinfoil hat. But maybe it's, the pendulum is swinging, and maybe this is designed for those audiences anyway. It's interesting. I mean, I love thrillers, conspiracy thrillers, yes. Alien, Area 51, maybe not my cup of tea personally, but maybe, yeah.
I, for one, I'm a huge X-Files fan, so I'm like, give me more. I will take it all and I will devour it right up. So I am down for this. Like, I'll be going to watch.
The audience, that's great.
I'll watch the Spielberg movie. I'll watch the Joseph Kosinski movie. I'll go watch the Trevorrow. Give me more of the, as long as they're good. Like, like give it to me. Now the next story, Jonathan Troper has extended his overall Apple deal, as his latest show, featuring John Hamm, Your Friends and Neighbors, has set a premiere record over at Apple TV Plus. Of course, Jonathan Troper, who, tell me if I'm wrong, but this guy looks like Tim Roth, doesn't he? Like the Abomination in the MCU. Like,
yeah.
I swear, like they look like the same person.
I'm gonna look it up just to verify that I think who I'm thinking is.
But yeah, I mean, while you do that, I mean, Jonathan Troper has already made a number of other things over at Apple. Lucky was another TV series, a Coursera Code and Matchbox. It just turns out to be that who have seen many of the shows on Apple TV Plus and movies, have not seen any of his work.
I see it.
You see it? Right? Yeah, Jonathan Troper and Tim Roth, they look like the same person. It's so crazy.
Side by side. There's like one picture they look like twins.
Exactly. I was like, whoa. I was so surprised. I'm like, that's not something I thought would be true. Jalen Harris in the chat. Sorry, you were saying?
Maybe they're long lost brothers.
Maybe that's what it is. Well, it looks like he's gonna be working at Apple for a lot longer because he's just extended his deal, and good for him. The next thing, the last quicket today, of course, recently, Jenna Fischer went ahead and watched back the entire run of The Office. Of course, she played Pam on the show, as you guys might remember. And she was recently saying that, hey, the show wasn't treading water after Steve Carell's exit. It's really good the whole time. So this was, I believe, on her podcast, right? Like, she's got her own Office Ladies podcast. And she was mentioning that, hey, look, the show was still pretty good even once Steve Carell left. I personally, look, I haven't finished watching the entirety of The Office after Steve Carell left. And part of it was because I really thought this struggled. I mean, they had to change the dynamic of the show. Like, it became more and more about, Andy and Dwight, and or not Andy, but like Andy, of course, became the new boss, but it became more about Jim and Dwight.
Yeah.
And the show, I thought the show's best years were definitely when Michael Scott was still on there. And even then, I think the show kind of peaked in his middle seasons, which a lot of shows that tends to happen. But I mean, in general, Bridget, do you agree with Jenna Fischer that the entirety of The Office's run was pretty damn good, or was it, treading water after Steve Carell left?
It's interesting. It's been so long because I watched the whole thing years ago, and I mean, obviously Steve Carell is his own force, and that can't be denied. I think it was sad for everyone when he left, because it's like, well, that's this whole character just gone, and he was just such a major part of the show. But I do kind of agree in some ways. I think there were definitely episodes that I still felt were good. There were parts that I was, it's here and there. But like, for example, like one that I don't know why I always think of this episode where Jim, and I forget his name, they move in together because they both are like, they have a new job somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so butchering this, I'm sorry. And because they live together or rooming together, they have to do dishes. And they're basically, this whole episode, they're just fighting about how Jim is like, no, you need to let the dishes soak. And the other guy's like, no, like you need to clean them. That's disgusting. And the whole argument's about that. And it's kind of, I guess it sounds dumb, but like, I don't know. I thought that was a good episode because it's like so real. Like, I feel like it's a real thing people argue over, especially like when you get a roommate and stuff. I don't know. I just think about that a lot though. And I think it had its moments. I would honestly have to probably rewatch it all now to rethink that. But I think it's normal too to think, because that's the huge expectation too. Like, after Steve Carell leaves, everyone probably feels his emptiness, and you feel like you're just have to make up for that. And so maybe, I don't know, I think, rewatching it for her, I know as an actor, I do that too. I rewatch things and it's like, oh, I thought I sucked. I was actually pretty good. Or like, I looked good in that photo or whatever. It's the thought.
I still, to me, again, like I said, by the way, Ron is back in the chat. I, for one, definitely still enjoyed the show a lot more when Steve Carell's Michael Scott was still around, because he was the show.
Yeah.
For a lot, it's definitely a lot of the most successful.
It was like a different show. You're right, when he left.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, hey, the show definitely changed, like you said, once Michael Scott was no longer on it. And with that, we have come to the end of the quick hits and the new segment of the show. So guys, let us know in the comments down below, what was your favorite story? What did you like the most? And hit that like button while you're at it. Hit subscribe if you're new. We do this 5 days a week, so you can always check us out Monday through Friday every evening, and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. But now, like I said, we're not done yet. We have to get into the main event of the show as always. So welcome on into another episode of DCU Daily. We do have a number of things to get into. It's gonna be a busy show. We have a lot to talk about. So let's dive into it, shall we? Before we do, I do have to bring Bridget back in. And I always ask Bridget, what is the story that you're most excited to talk about today?
I did mention it earlier, but because we haven't talked about it yet, I'll talk about it again. Millie Alcock and her just talking about her experience getting cast as Supergirl. And I just thought it was really interesting. And I love to hear like behind the scenes, especially when it's like the casting process, and hearing that even like some great actors, really successful, still get the nerves and want to puke. Great to hear.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Enterprising is saying so sorry, Dan. LOL. I don't know. I don't know what you're apologizing for. We were just doing the quick hits. Now it's time for DC. Let's get into it, shall we? Now, Bridget, we will be talking about Supergirl in a moment, but the first thing I wanted to bring up is potentially the introduction of Brainiac maybe is coming to the DCU very soon. This comes to us, of course, from DCU Worlds, who found Umberto Gonzalez posting a photo of Brainiac on their account with the eye emoji. Now, Umberto Gonzalez, if you guys don't know, he used to be just like a journalist who kind of worked independently, but he now works with The Wrap, which is one of those reputable trade report or outlets like Deadline and The Hollywood Reporter, Variety. You have The Wrap as well. And so Umberto Gonzalez recently posted this image, and so you got to wonder, what is he talking about? Like, where is Brainiac gonna be involved? Is he gonna be in the new Superman movie? I can't imagine like they would have somehow found a way to keep that a secret all this time. But there were some old rumors claiming, while Superman was filming, that Brainiac might have a role in Superman. So could it still happen? Maybe that's what he's hinting at. It would make sense to be, to have Brainiac be included as a major villain, because he's always been like a Superman villain or Justice League villain. He does have a rivalry with Supergirl as well, so maybe we see him in Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which comes out next year. And like I mentioned, he's a Justice League villain as well. So, Bridget, my question to you would be: is this, post from Umberto Gonzalez to be taken seriously? What is it in relation to? Do you think that means we're getting Brainiac and Superman after all, or do you think he might be getting introduced in another project like maybe Supergirl, or maybe they're just going to build up to him for a Justice League movie in this new cinematic universe?
Wow. I think there's a lot of just theories, but as you said, at this point, based on the picture, probably still just theories. I mean, I would, because he does have that rivalry with Supergirl, I would like to see that in the movie. Just because if we haven't really seen that yet for Superman, I don't know if it's likely that it will be in that.
I like Ron's theory saying that it could be a flashback in Supergirl, and he could be the reason that Krypton was destroyed. Like he could have been because in the comics he does collect worlds, and like one of the things he collects is like a city from Krypton. So maybe that could be part of it. Like, and maybe that's how they integrate him. That would be really cool. I mean, that would be awesome. They kind of did the hint at Brainiac was part of the Krypton show in season 2, so we've already kind of seen that done before in live action. How well depends on your opinion of how well do you think they got it, if they got it right at all in that show. Manos Time saying, Dan, there's some people that are saying that Brainiac isn't big enough for a Justice League movie and has to be a villain in a Superman sequel, and vice versa. What do you think? I think Brainiac is perfectly good enough for being a Justice League villain. Like, he's basically like a Galactus, right? Like, it's not the same thing, but he's definitely powerful enough, big enough of a character. If done right, you can absolutely make him a Justice League villain. We have seen it already in the comics and in the animated movies as well. So, and I think you can do that well enough, especially in the kind of world that James Gunn is building. Yeah, you can absolutely make him a Justice League villain. So I don't think he needs to just be a villain in the Superman sequel. Maybe you can save him for Justice League. Maybe you can build up to him. Like you build up to him through flashbacks in Supergirl, and then maybe we get him in as one of the characters in the next Superman movie, and then maybe we just get him as the main villain of the first Justice League movie. Enterprising saying, I wanted to see Brainiac for a long time. That said, I hope it's more of a setup for a future film if it is true. Yeah, I mean, not Liz, again, sorry, this is my second time making that gaffe today. But Bridget, do you think that maybe Enterprising is onto something? Maybe they just introduce him as like a post-credit sequence teaser, like a Thanos, for a future Justice League movie?
Yeah, it's possible, just to kind of give people that introduction. But I also I really do like the theory too, as you said, that he's like a flashback, because as I've heard too with the Supergirl movie, she's more of like an edgier version of like the CW version.
She's very jaded from like having seen her planet destroyed, right? And she was a
like
teenager.
Revenge. And I think that would be cool to see like that as kind of that reason, that one of the reasons that she's going to get her revenge.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, they did a pretty good job with him in Injustice 2, like Frankie was saying and Ron was mentioning. I do hope that Enterprising, like if they do bring in the city of Kandor, which of course is part of the mythology of Krypton, and then Brainiac gets involved with that. That's one of the cities he collects. Maybe that could be the way to do it. Like that would be really, really nice. But But again, so far all we have is this photo with an eye emoji. So I mean, Humberto Gonzalez knows a thing or two, but I really don't know what this is in reference to. It might just be there's a new comic book coming out for all we know. Although
Right.
that's
We're all
not
getting
exactly
excited, like, maybe.
that's not exactly Humberto Gonzalez's purview, but like we'll see. We'll see. We'll keep an eye out. I mean, maybe this leads to something big, maybe it doesn't. I'm sure we'll find out in a few days. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe we'll talk about it. But the next thing I wanted to discuss, Bridget, again, before we get to the Supergirl conversation, I kind of saved this from yesterday because Liz and I already had so much to talk about. But Chris saying maybe Brainiac will be in the post-credit sequence. Very possible. And by the way, hello to you, Chris. Hope you are enjoying the show. And Manos Time saying, I hope he looms in the shadows like Thanos did. Yeah, exactly. That could be the post-credit sequence. But as far as what you see on screen here, Bridget, Keanu Reeves, of course, was Constantine once upon a time. We know that he's been very passionate about a sequel. And apparently they've been working on a script for a while. But according to one of his co-stars from the first movie, Peter Stormare, the script for the second movie isn't quite coming along the way Keanu expected. He's not happy with where Constantine 2 currently exists. Of course, this was as part of an interview that he was doing recently, and the way Stormare described it is this. He said it's a lot of back and forth because I think Keanu, which I know pretty good, is not so happy with the scripts, and usually what comes out of the studios, because the first one wasn't that successful in the beginning, it became a sleeper and became a cult movie, and now it is one of the biggest cult movies ever. But to do a sequel, the studios want to have, cars flying in the air. They want to have people dying, doing flip-flops and fighting action scenes. So I guess what he's saying ultimately, and maybe he's going into all the wrong details, but he's saying that, look, Keanu Reeves wants this movie to be really good. He is really passionate about it. It's been 12 years since they did the last one. Yeah. So he probably wants it to be as good as it can be, and maybe where it is right now, the script isn't doing it for Keanu Reeves, who's going to be one of the producers in the movie. But where do you stand on this, Bridget? Do you think we even need a Constantine 2, and the fact that Keanu Reeves wants it to be really good? Because James Gunn and Peter Safran told him, go work on a script, and then we'll see if you want to greenlight it. So yeah. I'm sure Keanu really wants it to happen, so he wants the script to be good, right? Yeah. Like, it makes sense, but like, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's really tough. I can see it into its, it's been, as you said, 12 years. So I think that adds a lot of pressure when there's a sequel and it's become a cult classic. People too will want it to be good. And of course, I'm glad that he obviously feels passionate about making it worth it. I think it's hard coming with a flop after trying to make it, good. And I think he's on the right track, staying away from, let's fill it with this. Like he knows the character, the story. And I think he's got the right vision, kind of maybe keeping it simpler and just giving us something good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I personally think this could be very interesting if they do end up making the movie. But like Ron is saying, we need the character in the DCU. I imagine if they do a Constantine 2, it's going to be its own standalone thing, like an Elseworlds story. So Jalen asking, do we really need this movie? I don't think we really need the movie. I mean, we don't really need any movies, quite frankly, because like movies are like a bit of a luxury, right? Like we can survive without movies. Although I don't know. I think we all are naturally human. Humans are storytellers, so we do need movies at a certain level. But as far as this movie in particular, I don't think a lot of people are looking for this movie to even exist. Yeah. Like a lot of people wouldn't really care or mind if Keanu Reeves never was Constantine again. But obviously he wants to do it, and I'm sure he wants it to be perfect. So yeah, he just wants to get it right, like Enterprising is saying. Can't blame him for that. Quality is definitely should be, if anything, the driving force for it. So hopefully that turns into something good.
Maybe it's not the movie I was going to say, maybe it's not the movie we need, but it's just the movie that Keanu wants to say.
Keanu wants to, yeah. Which, I mean, and then again, like, we might watch the movie and be like, this is exactly the Constantine movie we all were looking for our entire lives.
Yeah, we needed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The movie we needed, but the movie we didn't think we deserve. But here it is. But we'll see. Ron saying, in order for the DCU to work, James Gunn cannot listen to the egos of big movie stars. Constantine would be better in the DCU with a new actor. Well, sure, but like you can also just do a Constantine 2 with Keanu Reeves and then have another Constantine in the DCU as well. After all, they're doing it with Batman, so I mean, yeah, I mean we can definitely do that. And I wouldn't mind, as long as it's good, as long as it's not a waste of money, as long as it doesn't do what the Joker Folly of Do did last year, which was a lot of doo-doo. So As long as it's good, I think we'll be fine. So let's see, updating my okay. So I just got distracted by the chat. But let's move on to what you were excited about, Bridget, which is the Supergirl story. So let's talk about that for a moment here, shall we? And we already have a few comments regarding the earlier conversation we were having regarding maybe Brainiac showing up in Supergirl. Enterprising was saying, I mean, if Supergirl is a cosmic adventure, hearing a rumor of a green-skinned Coluan collecting cities, even rare species like Kryptonians, would be maybe one way to include Brainiac in that movie. And then Man of Time saying in the Supergirl comic, Superman is referenced many times, and there are people in space who hold grudges against him. Maybe that's what makes Brainiac interested in him. Those are all really good ideas. I think both of those could work. But what we are talking about right now, Bridget, as you see in the headline, Supergirl star Millie Alcock spoke of her experience suiting up for the screen test for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, saying at one point, I thought I was going to vomit. So this is her quote in this article on comicbookmovie.com, saying, I was kind of in disbelief. I was initially like, what have I done? I then invited all my friends over to the house and we drank champagne. During a screen test, you're in a room with all of these other women vying for the same part, and you're dressed up as the character. The studio will get you lined up in the makeup truck and then put the same makeup on you, all of you, and then test you on a stage. For Supergirl, it was myself and another girl. It was really scary. I thought I was going to vomit, but it's just fear. Just what happens. This job has been a journey of overcoming my own fear. What do you think about her experience as an actress yourself? I'm sure you've sort of gone through that similar experience in the past, but how do you relate to what Millie Alcock is talking about? You know, an established, successful actress in her own right, but, you know, still she had that whole, you know, anxiety feeling, and she was gonna, at one point she thought she might vomit, like just auditioning for this role.
Yeah. I think, I mean, first off, I love that quote. Like, I think that really just kind of is a great way just to describe acting in a whole, as like that the job is a journey of overcoming your own fear. I feel like that's something I had faced, you know, my entire time acting since I was young. And I really think too, hearing her experience, there's even an idea, you know, that, oh, one day when I make it to this point or to that point, all of the troubles, all of the fears, all of the struggles are going to go away. And it's just going to be, you know, a cakewalk. And just to hear like, oh no, it never ends. You know, I've heard that before, but it's, you know, it's like, oh, even though you've won these roles and you've gotten this recognition, there's always a feeling that, you know, I'm still like, you're still trying to climb those tiers and you're still trying to, you know, set your place in the industry. And I think I think it's very humbling for any people to hear. And it also makes you see that they're still humble, still have that humanity.
Absolutely.
Normal human emotions.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that she's already, you know, been in Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, which obviously was a worldwide phenomenon, and she's done a number of other things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still cool. It reminds people that these opportunities are coin flip of fortune, says Enterprise. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. It's a great way. And then Man of Time saying Millie Alcock is going to be a big star. She was great in House of the Dragon and Sirens, which is currently airing on Netflix. We are lucky to have her. Absolutely, I agree with you on that one. I think it's just, again, very good to see the humility, like Enterprising was saying, like you were saying, Bridget, that, you know, even though they could be big stars, they still have the same struggles when they're trying to audition for these huge roles. I mean, she's going to be in the public spotlight in a way she's never been before, being Supergirl in the new DC universe. That's completely different from even Game of Thrones, right? There's a passionate fan base. They know what they want. They will tell you when they don't like something. And so there's a lot of pressure. So it's good to see that, you know, she got the jitters out. She overcame her fears, and she might even have some, you know, bumps and bruises from having filmed a lot of her own stunts. But it looks like she enjoyed the experience. The movie is now in post-production, Supergirl. So guys, let us know in the comments down below what you think about the movie so far, what you think about Millie Alcock's comments. We'd love to hear from you. And in the meantime, let's switch gears. We do have one main event, our final topic of the day that we got to talk about, which of course is all things Superman, right? So today the big news for Superman was that they announced a global tour, a promotional tour leading up to the release of the movie, where they're gonna go out there and they're gonna promote the hell out of it. So let's dive into it, shall we, Bridget? So I wanted to kind of ask you about what you thought for the dates that they've announced here. They put out a little bit of a teaser alongside it, and there's some new footage in that teaser. Not a ton of stuff. Obviously, you have David Cornsweet, you have Richard Brosnahan, you have James Gunn at that set that they've been using for all the promotional stuff. Nicholas Hoult talking about all the different countries and cities they're going to be going to promote the movie, including, of course, you've got New York, Beijing, Paris, and there, Rio de Janeiro. They're going to go literally all over the world. And we get to see a little bit more footage from the Superman movie itself. Not a ton of new footage, but then they did announce, of course, the big thing was the dates. The Superman World Tour kicks off in June. It kicks off literally in a little over 2 weeks' time. And the first date is going to be in Manila. So they're going to Southeast Asia first. And when they get to Manila, they're going to stay there probably for not very long. And then they'll depart the Philippines, where they'll be in June 19th for a red carpet premiere, I'm sure. And then they're going to fly all the way across the world to Rio de Janeiro on the 23rd. And then from there, they have a bit of a break, because on July 2nd, they'll have their London premiere. And then July 4th, they'll be in Paris, which makes sense. You could just cross the channel for Paris. But then things start to get really crazy and wild, because they go from Paris on the 4th of July. Which is funny, because 4th of July is, like you could have been in New York, because it's the 4th of July, America's birthday, America's semi-bicentennial, whatever, that the 175th birthday, or was it? No, 225th? Anyway, yeah, 250th, I think it is, birthday. Let me get my, timeline right. But anyway, July 4th, they're going to be in Paris. And then, like I said, things start to get really crazy, because the Superman World Tour goes all the way from the Parisian slopes to Los Angeles.
LA.
They go from Europe all the way to across the other side of the United States on July 7th. Then they go to New York on July 9th. So they're crisscrossing the United States.
That doesn't make sense. Why didn't they go to...
Go to New York first,
and
then go to Paris. Oh, sorry, then go
London, Paris, London, New York, and then LA.
Yeah, like, why not go to New York first and then LA and then Beijing? Because you could just keep going. But apparently, they're gonna be the Iron Men of the superhero promotional tour. They're gonna be like, we can do better than even Tom Cruise, because they'll go to Los Angeles on the 7th, and then the next couple of days later, they're gonna be in New York on the 9th. And then they're going to get real crazy, and they're going to go all the way to Beijing the day after New York. The flight from New York to Beijing alone is like 18 hours. So that leads me to wonder, like, are they going to have the same people in both places? Like, because I don't know if they can make it happen. Like, is that even possible? Yeah. That is kind of crazy. I don't know, Bridget, what do you think about this? These are the 7 dates, I should say.
They've said packed. It's a really crazy vacation itinerary here.
I don't think they're thinking of this as vacation.
I know. I don't envy them. That's for sure. That's really tough. Hopefully you would think, they do have different people at different places, because that
Manos Time is from France, and he's saying he might try to get there on the 4th when they're in Paris. So, well, Manos Time, if you do end up being there in person, if it's like a red carpet premiere and you're able to attend, let us know how it goes. I know Liz is trying to get out to France this year, and she wanted to meet up with you. So I guess hit her up and get in on her DMs for that. But Hugo Millie's in the chat saying title said Supergirl there, and Bridget was right there, and I thought she was a picture of Supergirl for a second. Oh wow, look at that compliment.
That's so sweet. I wish. But yeah, I know they did great casting for that.
Absolutely. Nico pointing out Manila to Beijing would make a lot more sense, because you're already in the Philippines. You just go north and a bit to the east. But instead they're like, no, we're gonna go from Manila to Brazil and Rio de Janeiro, then we're gonna go to London, then we're gonna go to Paris. That's like the most normal transition. London to Paris, okay, we get that. But then they're gonna go all the way to LA, and then they come back to New York, and then they go all the way to Beijing. It's like crazy. It's Beijing. Like,
maybe they got like super discounted flights, and this was like the only way they could make it work. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess the dates are the way they are, so there you go. That's that. When are you guys mentioning Laura Kinney just got cast? Are we talking about in the MCU? Like, where are we talking about? Like, I didn't see that. Hugo, but I will make sure to bring that into tomorrow's show. But let us know in the chat what is going on with Laura Kinney. I don't know if what role she's playing in the in the DCU. I suppose you're saying. TC24 is here. Lanterns. She's in Lanterns. Oh, okay. Lanterns. You know what? Let me find it. We'll get into it. We'll do a live reaction. I did not know this is something that happened. Maybe it came out while we have been live. So we'll bring it up. We'll talk about it. But before we do, let's kind of finish talking about Superman, shall we? Hosea is saying now I want to see Dan and John interview 5. Yeah, based on the conversation going on today in the chat. We will definitely try. Maybe 5 is up for it. Maybe once we have our Discord up and running. But Antonio also confirming the news, so we will get into that in a minute. Let's just finish the subject of conversation right now being Superman. Of course, James Gunn posted saying he's so happy to be visiting so many of us during the summer of Superman. Bridget, how tired do you think they're gonna be? Just going across, what is it, 4 different continents in a matter of like a month, basically, less than that. In a stretch of 5 days, they're gonna be going from Paris to New York to to LA to New York, then all the way to Beijing. I mean, I'm just gonna, if I were in their position, I'd be just like, I'm gonna carry my bed with me.
Honestly,
I want to sleep. Super tired.
I can only imagine, because my mom's family's from Australia, so I have done those really long flights, and you feel like dead inside. And so I just can't imagine like repeatedly doing that. A couple days later, getting jet lagged, and those long flights, yeah, like going like 24, 30 hours, and you just haven't slept. It's cruel and unusual punishment, and my heart goes out to them because I'm tired thinking about it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, one of you guys in the chat, yeah, and Nico saying that they did this for Aquaman too. So yeah, Antonio saying that happens when you do these movies, and Nicholas Hoult won't be tired because he did X-Men. So he has done these tours before. James won't be tired because he's done this stuff at Guardians, and
I guess
people have done this before.
They'll be first class sleeping with their pillow. Yeah, I guess they'll find ways to sleep. And
yeah, I mean, Superman can handle it, right? Of course he can. The only 2 that you could say would probably get tired is the 2 main characters, Lois and Superman. Yeah, I mean, Rachel Brosnahan and David Cornsworth probably will be there for every single one of those dates. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, my reaction initially was the same as Ron's. Yikes, that's a lot of traveling. That's a lot of air miles,
Yeah.
But Manos Time asking, what do you think about the Superman marketing now that I know that the beginning was rough, but I feel like they're in a good place? Well, to answer your question, Manos, I believe the marketing has been perfect. Yeah, there were a couple of gaps around the Super Bowl time. The Puppy Bowl was a bit of a disappointment, but outside of that, they've never oversold and under delivered. If anything, they've been over delivering. I know we get very anxious and impatient about when are we getting the next trailer, when are we getting the next look at the movie, but quite frankly, when you're talking about it 5 days a week, that's going to happen, right? It's like time slows down for us. Like, whereas the average moviegoer is thinking, oh, didn't they just put out a new trailer a few weeks ago when it was like in December? And then obviously when you look at it now, like you said, Manos Time, they did the teaser in December. Then they gave us the some more footage, like trickling here and there. We have gotten a poster. We have gotten more behind the scenes images, like on a regular basis now. We got the CinemaCon special look with the whole crypto sequence. We had the behind the scenes featurette drop a week after, and then literally a week or 2 later that we got the full trailer. So it's a constant stream, and I feel like we're still gonna get at least one more trailer before the movie comes out. And then obviously you can see they filmed so much stuff in this set that they put up for Superman with all the promotional work, which is where you see Superman, Lex Luthor, of course James Gunn, Lois Lane, like all these actors talking about all these promotional stuff. Yesterday we were talking about how they filmed something in that same studio for the China release and all that stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be fine. They're doing a great job. So yeah, and you know what? We did see the workout video of David TC24. In fact, that's the next thing I wanted to bring up. How it started versus how it's going. David Cornsweat, how he got into Superman shape. Bridget, were you impressed with the physique that he's put on for this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed with all of that. That is you know, and of course I know that's what has to be done. I know Henry Cavill was in the gym a lot, and that's, you know, just the price of being Superman. But yeah, I think he did well.
Yeah, exactly. Um, at homegirl playing hot girl, you know she happy about this because the last time she did a movie, she was a comic book movie, did not turn out so well. Yeah, that's true. But Isabella Merced is having a better luck nowadays. But yeah, Superman physique for sure. You look. This is. I mean, they're not showing. Well, there's the bulge, but like, you know, they're not showing. The physique from the gym that he put on, but if you were following David Cornswell like we were over the course of the last year, that man got into a Superman shape, like literally. Antonio saying regarding Superman's marketing, as a person who remembers Batman v Superman marketing, there was too much and they gave away too much. Yeah, famously that final trailer gave away Doomsday, which they should not have done. And it hurt the movie, but so they're doing the right thing here. They're holding on to a lot of the secrets, but they're still giving us a look at quite a bit of footage from the movie itself, as you can see there. And yeah, the workout video is pretty fantastic. And Enterprising saying it's the right time. They're doing this at the right time, and the marketing would start to pick up as they expected right around now, like 2 months and going into the movie. We're now like literally not even 2 months. I feel like we're a month and a half or less than that even away from the movie coming out. So yeah, it's in this month in particular. Now that we're getting into June, I think is when we're gonna get the peak marketing, and they're gonna be on the road, flying out to Manila, and then from that to Rio de Janeiro, and so on and so forth till they all get all the way to New York and then Beijing by the time the movie releases. In fact, when you look at the dates, July 10th is the day that the movie comes out in most markets. July 11th is when it releases in the US, but July 10th, most people will be watching the previews on Thursday, and that's when they're going to be in Beijing. So they'll be making a public appearance the day the movie comes out. So that's pretty gosh darn impressive. Well, with that, I think there's one more thing I wanted to kind of quickly highlight before we get into the other breaking news that you guys brought up, which is this fun video that they posted on Instagram of David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan getting to set while they were filming, and they recorded a bunch of videos, which I'm sure they weren't able to post till now. Riding that golf cart there, having a whole lot of fun. Yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts? Have you ever been in this situation where you're just going around the studio backlot and
Not yet, but I hope so. And when I do, I will also post some BTS. let people know. That's so fun. Yeah. Well, they're going to LA July 7th. I don't know what they're going to be doing, but hopefully I can be free and maybe also see what's going on.
I mean, please do go and you know, give us a report, because we would love to hear
live from LA. Superman
live from LA. Yeah, they're looking like they're having fun. I mean, Rachel Brosnahan and David Cornsweet, they had great chemistry. Like that's exactly the reason, like Menace Time said.
And I was like, are they dating? I don't know.
No. Well, they're not, because they're both married.
Yeah. I'm saying they look sweet. Yeah.
I mean, I saw this on Instagram and everywhere else, and like Enterprising was saying, they seemed so down to earth. They seem very relatable. They look, I mean, and you know, the marketing has been fantastic, and I love seeing these behind the scenes looks as well. Yeah, they have super chemistry. Thank you, Ron, for that. With that said, guys, let us know what you think about the Superman World Tour and what they're up to with that. They're going to be on one hell of a marathon run starting on June 19th all the way up to July 10th, where they will start out in Manila and eventually end up in Beijing, and along the way stopping by in cities like Paris, New York, as well as of course LA. They're going to be going to Rio de Janeiro as well. They have 7 dates in total, and which let me see, did I miss any? I think they have London in there as well. Of course, you can't not do London. The world tour is exciting. Let us know in the comments down below what you think about that. And right now we have to switch gears because we have some breaking news from the world of lanterns. So let's talk about that, because we have some fun casting news. This, I believe, broke while we have been live on the show, and you guys have brought it up to us as we have been talking about Superman. So Bridget, let's bring this in, shall we? We've been sitting on this for a few minutes now. It was Hugo Millie who first said, did you guys go over Laura Linney being cast in the DCU, specifically in Lanterns? Antonio then went on to say, if it is true, it's not really surprising considering that Chris Mundy probably cast people he's worked with before, which is very true because Laura Linney and Chris Mundy have worked on not Lanterns, they are potentially now doing that, but before this, Chris Mundy and Laura Linney were working on that Netflix show. Why am I forgetting? Somebody tell me in the chat. I just had it at the top of my mind. They had the one with Jason Bateman on Netflix. Laura Linney, Ozark. Wow.
Oh,
big brain fart on my part. Laura Linney and Chris Mundy. Chris Mundy was the showrunner of Ozark. Laura Linney was one of the stars alongside Jason Bateman in Ozark. So yeah, I mean, that tends to happen. Directors and showrunners like to work with the same people. Thank you, Antonio, for pointing that out. But here's the story. So Lanterns, according to Cosmic Book News, has cast Laura Linney, possibly as Carol Ferris, or maybe Star Sapphire, in the new Lantern show. This would line up because she would then become basically the love interest of our Hal Jordan, played by Kyle Chandler. So given that this is coming from Cosmic Book News, I would say I still have my doubts. By the way, thank you, Antonio, and Manos Time. It was Ozark. It is official according to Ron. So I'm gonna see if I can find out more about this. But Antonio's saying, I know she was a full-time Oscar nominee until what was reported. So yeah, I mean, Laura Linney has been doing this for a long time, and she's a great actress, of course, and now potentially joining the DCU. That sounds fantastic.
yeah.
I mean, Steven, I am near New York. That's true. I can be there for the Superman tour. We were talking about that earlier, of course. I mean, Bridget, I know you'll be probably back in LA, right? Like, so maybe the two of us, we can cover those.
Yeah,
areas.
that'd be fun. If I
So-
can find out where it is when it's taking
Yep.
place.
Now Frankie doesn't necessarily agree with the casting, saying not feeling this casting for Carol Ferris. Whereas Enterprising, on the other hand, says this is great. Antonio saying, I don't know if she is Carol Ferris. She might be in prison, locked in there with a child with Lex Luthor. I'm not sure how that would work. I don't know if that's what they're going with. Oh, okay. Oh, Ron is saying he was asking if it is official. Right. Well, so far, I have to say I've been searching, and I'm gonna keep searching, but the only outlet I found was basically Cosmic Book News. But now I'm seeing a few other places. Oh, okay. So this is coming from John's favorite insider, Jeff Snyder. Let me see if I can bring up a couple of these other sources here. But Bridget, while I do that, I mean, what do you think about Laura Linney potentially joining, or now officially joining, the DCU? A huge, I don't know if she's A-list, but she's definitely a very well-known, very talented actress, and now joining the new DC universe as part of the Lantern show.
Yeah. Well, she's A-list in my book because I remember she was in like the Truman Show, and I loved her role in that. I thought, she was so good at that. So
yeah, one of the people in the chat were pointing that out. She was in the Truman Show.
Yeah, definitely things where I'm like, oh, I know that person. I guess I never really, it's not like, oh, Tom Cruise, Laura Linney, but she's definitely obviously well known. I think most people could pick her out. So yeah, I'm excited for her. That's obviously huge, and hopefully she will fit right into this role of Carol.
Yeah,
Ferris.
absolutely. So she has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She's Oscar nominated twice.
Yeah.
She's a great actress.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Jeff Snyder, this is his tweet right here on X, saying exclusive via the hot mic, 3-time Oscar nominee and 4-time Emmy winner Laura Linney has joined DC's Lantern. So coming from Jeff Snyder, one of the big Hollywood insiders, and via his The Insnider and Hot Mic podcast, where he said that Laura Linney, of course, who's previously worked with Chris Mundy on Ozark, is now joining Chris Mundy, who's the showrunner now of Lantern. So very exciting. It is confirmed now. And Discussing Film also mentioning this. This was, I think, revealed on one of the podcasts that Jeff Snyder was doing. So that is huge news. What a way to find out. I mean, we're doing this live. This is breaking news. Laura Linney is now part of the show. Now, when you look at Jeff Snyder's post, because he's the source here, he doesn't specify what character he'd be playing, or she'd be playing, I should say. And Antonio, like, rightfully waiting for Deadline or Variety or The Hollywood Reporter to confirm it, which is true. I mean, Jeff Snyder has been known to misfire in the past. In fact, remember he famously said Damson Idris was going to be the lead for the show, playing our Jon Stewart Lantern. But then, because it was basically down to Aaron Pierre and Damson Idris, and Jeff Snyder said he was hearing that Damson Idris is the lead for that role. And then literally the next day, we find out that Aaron Pierre is Jon Stewart. So, I mean, Jeff Snyder can get it wrong. He's not perfect. And with that said, though, he's the only one reporting this so far. Again, as far as who Laura Linney would be playing, I mean, Frankie G saying she can't be playing Star Sapphire. She's too old for that role. And I mean, honestly, while Jeff Snyder's not the best source, he definitely doesn't specify what role she's going to be playing. She just says that she's part of the show. She's joined the show. I'm surprised that they've held on to this secret this long, because they're shooting the show now, but I imagine they probably cast her a long time ago. Yeah, I mean, it's surprising to me. It's definitely surprising. It doesn't mean she's Carol Ferris. I think Cosmic Book News, which was the first source that I put up, they're sort of speculating here a little bit, because even they say who just may be playing Carol Ferris from the comics, aka Star Sapphire. So they're kind of speculating here. No specific details of the casting have been given. That's Star Sapphire, aka Carol Ferris, in the comics. I don't think that's where Laura Linney is gonna play, or certainly probably not that costume at least. I wish John was here, because John, I'm sure will have a lot to say, but we'll bring it up when John is back from his mission next week. But John has got all the different lantern rings. But Bridget, again, from your past experience, having seen Laura Linney's work, there's a saying that you can't go wrong by adding talent. Do you think on just that measure alone, this is a great addition to the DCU? Because I imagine that she's not just going to be doing the show here. She might actually end up potentially in the movies in the future, especially if she is indeed playing Carol Ferris.
Right. I mean, she's obviously got a long proven track record. She's great. She's worked with the showrunner, which also, of course, makes sense. He knows her work personally, can work together with the writing material, and can know what to expect working with her. So I think it also makes sense, and it's exciting. Yeah, I'm sure she's very excited too.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure, and I imagine that again, this casting was probably done a long time ago. I'm surprised they've held on to it for this long. And again, Jeff Snyder, doing this as an exclusive report. We're not a big fan of the source in the sense that he can get things wrong, but hey, if he is right, then it would make sense, because Hal Jordan is 59, aka Kyle Chandler, and I believe Laura Linney, according to Man of Time, is 61. So age-wise, they're pretty close together. So I guess it works. But since we're getting an older Hal Jordan, maybe we're getting an older Carol Ferris as well. It would make sense. And I don't think there's anything wrong, Ron. I don't think Man of Time is implying that there's anything wrong with getting somebody who's a bit older, because again, if there are love interests of each other, then it makes sense. And I'm sure she can still play a really, really amazing Star Sapphire, right? And I'm sure if they wanted to go the route of having some flashback sequences, you can do that too. It could totally still work. She's and Nico was saying, like you said, Bridget, she was in the Truman Show. I mean, and she was on Ozark, right? And then that's the big connection between Chris Mundy, who was a showrunner of Ozark. Now he's a showrunner of Lanterns, that he's bringing in one of his tried and tested and true favorite cast members from the Ozark over to the DCU. So Laura Linney joining up with the Lantern show. She's going to be a part of it. I wonder how big of a role she's going to have on the show. I don't care to speculate too much on it just yet until we get more details about this. Enterprising pointing out, note that Star Sapphire killed Jon Stewart's love interest in comics, so she could be an enemy to Jon Stewart in the future. Yeah, I mean, that's a bit speculative right now, because we don't know what direction they're going to go with the story here, but that could be something to do. I mean, they could lay the groundwork for that now. It's so far the show, as far as we're aware, the way things are sort of structured for Lanterns, it looks like Kyle Chandler's more veteran, jaded Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, that is. He's going to be sort of training up and maybe passing the baton on to Aaron Pierce, Jon Stewart. as the new Lantern. So maybe that means that, you know, Carol Ferris has already been a part of the life of Hal Jordan in this universe for a long time. Maybe, you know, they meet each other for the first time in the show. Who knows? Maybe they fly off into the sunset at the end. We'll have to just wait and see. Yeah, and then, you know, like they have obviously gone with the older versions of these characters, but, you know, hey, the MCU cast RDJ as Doctor Doom, and people are worried about, are we gonna get an actual Doctor Doom that's not like just a rehash of a different actor playing the same role? These cinematic universes are separate from the comics, so they can, you know, get to make their decisions. Like, you know, Ben Affleck played an older Batman. We started off with a 40-year-old Batman in the DCEU. The Batman in the DCU is going to be in his 40s too. So, you know, while we have a younger Batman and Robert Pattinson's the Batman, even though he in real life is now 40. So, like, I don't know. It's all relative at the end of the day. So, Bridget, I think that's probably going to do it for us here today. But, you know, exciting news. We had some breaking news. Superman going on a world tour. Laura Linney joining Lanterns in a role that's coming from Jeff Snyder. Of course, we'll have to just wait and see what role she's going to be playing. Jeff Snyder did not specify that. But we also had this story about Supergirl. You know, even though she's a well-established actress in her own right now, Millie Alcock still had the just all the anxiety in the world. She felt like she could vomit when she was auditioning for the role of Supergirl. But the movie is in post-production now, so we'll have to just wait and see how it turns out. And Manos Time pointing out regarding Laura Linney joining Lanterns, she may not even be Carol. She may be another character entirely. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But hey, look, Enterprising, don't be disappointed. They might yet do some flashbacks. They could probably de-age Kyle Chandler and Laura Linney if they wanted them to play their younger selves as well. Let's just, you know, keep an open mind, because we all know that things could turn out to be really good or really bad. It's just we have to wait and find out for ourselves. And right now they're filming the show. Lanterns releases next year. Speculation on whether it comes out before or after Supergirl, we'll find out, I'm sure, by Comic-Con this year. Until then, you know, let's keep our minds open to the idea that Laura Linney, a fantastically talented actress, Emmy-winning, Oscar-nominated, she is now part of the Lantern show on HBO. And with that, we're going to be back tomorrow for another episode of DC Daily. Bridget will be back with me, and we'll have a Q&A session. So like we always say, drop your comments down below. We will bring in your best comments for the Q&A, and we'll, of course, have the latest from the world of Marvel, DC, Hollywood in general. Until then, hit subscribe if you're new. We're here 5 days a week. Hit the notification bell so you know when we are live. And with that, if you haven't already, hit the like button on your way out. Bridget, it's been a pleasure. I'll see you tomorrow on another episode of DCU Daily.
Good.